Let's be friends.
Have you not?
And here we go. And as man said, and here we go. And good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the Ambassador Wing. Hope you all are having a good Monday night. It is the start of a brand new week, the week of Thanksgiving. And to all of you who celebrate that very festive holiday, happy early Thanksgiving. Gobble, gobble. And we are back with episode 2 of No Sequel November. And tonight, we're returning once again to the 1990s and as the thumbnail said, a Arnold Schwarzenegger film that I skipped and got sent a clip by a good friend, which will be joining me here in just a couple minutes or anything, of a scene from Last Action Hero starring the one and only Arnold Schwarzenegger. And my response to my friend was, why did I skip this? This was right up my freaking alley. I would have loved to have seen this on the big screen. But unfortunately, for whatever reason, I forget what now exactly, I skipped Last Action Hero. But tonight, we are going to pay some due respect to this movie, this wonderful little, I would say, cult classic amongst the long list of films that Mr. Arnold Schwarzenegger has starred in. But before we get into the review proper, make sure you smash that like button. Make sure you share the stream out with all your friends. And of course, if this is your first visit to the Ambassador Wing, welcome. Hope you enjoy the stream. And if you do, in fact, enjoy the stream, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the all notifications so that when I go live or when I do an upload, you'll be notified when I get stuff uploaded onto the channel. And just a other little thing before we get started. Normally I do a anniversary stream. I have for the last 3 years, but commemorating the launch of the channel. But this year, I don't have the time and I don't have it in me to do a special stream. So I just want to take a moment and I want to thank all of you. Whether you have been here from the beginning or whether you are just a recent addition to the Ambassador Wing, thank you for being here. Thank you for your time. Thank you for watching and all those other things. Know that I am most definitely appreciative of your time and of your support. So, but with all that being said, we're going to jump into the review. And as I said, a good friend of mine sent me a clip from this movie, and I have to give him props. He knew exactly what he was doing when he sent me the clip from Last Action Hero, and want to give him a very warm welcome. He is a regular here. If you don't know him, if you don't love him, by the end of the stream, trust me, you will. Welcome, my friend, Mr. Zach Leary.
Thank you, buddy.
Evening, Zach.
First of all, thank you, man. And first of all, congratulations on the anniversary of your channel. You're really a great broadcaster, and
4 years.
People like your style, man. So congrats.
Thank you, Zach, and thank you for sending me that clip.
Yeah, well, I'm curious. Which scene did I send you?
You sent me the clip where the bad guys break into Slater's house, or it's his ex-wife's house, and his daughter is there, and she's kicking the ever-loving crap out of all the villains or all the henchmen and everything. And I'm like, this is right up my alley. And he uses, it was that clip. It actually features Charles Dance, and I was like, wait a minute, is that Tywin Lannister?
Yeah, Charles Dance, man, is spectacular.
He was great in this.
He was so good.
He was absolutely. He was so good in this. I'm like, what? Granted, I didn't know Charles Dance until I had seen him as Tywin Lannister in Game of Thrones. But when I saw this clip and I saw Charles Dance, I'm like, oh, I gotta check out this movie. I got to check out this movie, and I was lucky enough to actually find a copy of it on the cheap at a used movie store for like $3. I was like, oh, I'm yeah, give me mind. Come on, you're coming with
Well,
me.
this film, and take the stream any way you want to take it. So, but one of the things I want to bring up right away
Sure,
is how it's kind of an interesting mixture, man. I mean, it's like
it
it's got
is.
it's got a little hint of like the Goonies and Zathura. You've got the magic ticket element. You've
Yeah,
got you've got the action, but at the same time, it's almost a spoof of the action film at the same time. You've got the great
it
action,
is.
but it's self-aware as a film, which back then
Yeah,
for 1993 was something audiences didn't really had not seen. It was ahead of its time.
it was a bit ahead of its time because we wouldn't get another movie like this per se until Jumanji. I think like a couple of years later with Robin Williams. But this movie, yeah, you hit upon it does have elements of the Goonies, which is true because you do have a young kid as the lead or the one of the main supporting characters,
Danny,
and you yeah Danny, and of course you got Mr. Schwarzenegger,
who was
Arnie as he
phenomenal.
was. Yeah, and one of the things I found really interesting when Danny goes into the movie and he goes to the police station, he's like, "Are there not?" And doesn't this all just seem a little outlandish for you all? I mean, you have an animated cat going on patrol, and the animated cat is voiced by one of Schwarzenegger's best buddies, Danny DeVito. I
I
mean,
know.
come on. I mean, you have a cameo by Danny DeVito. You have a couple of cameo appearances by Art Carney, who, for those you might know, was a co-star on the old black and white TV series The Honeymooners. I mean, you got Robert Prosky, who plays the theater owner, the projectionist.
That guy's
If you
classic,
know
man.
him,
Yes.
if you know him and everything, you know him from Mrs. Doubtfire. He's the owner of the television station where Daniel Hillard, Robin Williams' character, works at, and him and Danny are getting plastered on double scotches left and right at the restaurant, the Bridges, during the course of his ex-wife's birthday dinner. Yeah, this movie, not to mention, okay, if this movie had come out around the same time as American Pie, I would definitely describe. Granted, I am happily married, but teenage me would have said um, Danny's mother is a milf, an an
Yeah.
absolute milf. I mean, Danny's mom was cute, was rather attractive. I'm not gonna lie.
Played
So,
by what's her name?
oh, I honestly don't know. I wish I did, but I don't. You know what? Hang on. I'll pull up the IMDb for this, and I think I'll find out. But yeah, this was being advertised back in the '90s. Like I said, I kind of was like, this just doesn't. This I don't know if it was the marketing or whatever
Well,
the
the film had a
case.
bad rap back in the '90s. You had it was one of those films, like it was one of the first films to really have a negative press before the film came out. Is they had
Yeah,
done rewrites and they had done reshoots, and you had heard all kinds of behind the scenes drama, which if you guys go back and even
mhm,
look at the interviews they did with Arnold and some of the other cast
yeah,
back then, that was a part of the conversation. Why has the film gotten such a bad rap? So that was a part of the marketing. They were kind of troubled from the reshoots and rewrites.
yeah. Well, not to mention we missed one very important cameo appearance, and that's of course by F. Murray Abraham and also the late great Anthony Quinn as Vivaldi. Um, let's see, Mercedes Rule played the mother.
Okay, I've never even heard of her.
That was the name of Danny. Well, that was the mom. Not to mention, you also had a couple of cameo appearances by Professor Taro Tanaka. You might know him better as Oddjob
Yep.
from Goldfinger.
Mm-hmm.
So,
The Hat.
and let's see, yeah, Jim Belushi playing himself, of course. Another cameo appearance towards the end of Sir Ian McKellen as Death. I'm like, wait a minute, is that Ian McKellen? As in Sir Ian McKellen in a movie like this? Like,
Dude,
no
I
freaking
think
way.
I think that might be my favorite movie death of all time.
Yeah, Ian Mc, there's only one that might be slightly there. Granted, it's a little more of a comedic take on the Grim Reaper, and that's Bill Sattler as Death in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure and Bill and Ted Face the Music.
Oh yeah,
But
well William
yeah,
Sadler's great.
he, yeah, he is Bill Sattler. His portrayal of Death was obviously was much more comedic in its tone. But I will say, when Ian McKellen is Death in this movie, he's like, I don't do fiction. And when if I remember correctly, he's playing the version of Death from the movie The Seventh Seal, the old black and white movie starring oh heavens, wasn't it Max von Sydow and Ingvar uh, Bergman? I can't remember his first name off the top of my head.
Yeah, well you
But
got the correlation is correct. I mean, he's got
yeah,
the even the same outfit.
yeah, exactly. But this was a rather novel um take for a film because, as you said, it's a spoof. It's a spoof of the action film, which, let's be honest, in the early to mid 90s, the action genre, the action star, and everything was kind of in its waning days. I mean, we've still had a few action movies with some of the big names in like the late 90s and into the early 2000s, like with Bruce Willis in a couple of the last few of the Die Hard movies, and even with the Expendables, with all of the boys coming back, especially including Arnold Schwarzenegger himself. The action movie star was kind of phasing out, kind of like the same way with the Western,
Hmm.
and all those actors who are known for their work in Western film, like with John Wayne, Gary Cooper. Um, I'd say that's two of the bigger names for Westerns in particular. And even now, Schwarzenegger, he's come back to certain action franchises, like with the Terminator films. Grand, I will say it, I did not see the last one, the Terminator Dark Fate, did not have any real desire to.
Why would you?
But,
Why
hmm,
would anybody? Why would you? you
no.
know?
But this movie, it understands what it is, it understands the narrative it's trying to tell. And you have an intriguing premise. What would happen if you actually got to meet your favorite action star or your favorite action character? And the premise is this ticket that Robert Prosky's character, the movie theater owner, said that the ticket belonged to Houdini, and Houdini told him it was magic. Great piece of real world building, and at the same time a really novel concept.
Yeah, well, that's your kind of storybook element to it, which
Yeah.
ties it into like the kids' films of the '90s, which I think I would say most people are fans of. The stuff like
Mm-hmm.
the Goonies and so forth. But
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
yeah, you're right. I mean, but here's another thing that's going on is you've got
Mm-hmm.
Charles Dance playing his character as a real character. He's a fictional character, okay, but Right, he is right. He's in the
Hmm.
film, and he plays it straight. He plays the whole movie straight as this kind of creepy, evil assassin hitman guy. So he's out there acting as if it was a
Yeah.
serious film. So you've got, different actors playing characters differently. Charles Dance playing it straight up, unaware of the comedy, basically.
Yeah, and Charles Dance, he was, yeah, I know he's the bad guy, but he was a really somewhat suave or charming villain in this movie. I mean, you've got him playing off of Anthony Quinn, who plays Vivaldi, the big mobster, and honestly, Vivaldi is kind of a bungler. He everything he does, he screws up, and it almost makes you feel like maybe Benedict, who is Charles Dance's character, he should have been the villain. He should have been the bad guy the whole time, not Anthony Quinn, because Anthony Quinn's character is almost like semi-comic relief, and you can't take him seriously. I mean, Anthony Quinn is a very good actor. He had done a lot of good films throughout his career, but his character in this movie is he's supposed to be the bad guy, but let's be honest here.
No, he's not
Charles
the bad
Dance
guy.
is Benedict.
Yeah,
He's the
he's
villain.
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't so Anthony Quinn gets whacked, right? Charles Dance shoots him in the pool, if I'm not
Hmm.
mistaken. So, and he's
Yep.
also the guy trying to escape into the real world there at
Yeah.
the end. So,
Hmm.
um, he becomes aware of what's actually happening.
Hmm. Well, here's the thing. Let's be honest here. In terms of the world of the movie itself, Charles Dance's character Benedict was actually really well written as a villain. He was a well written antagonist. They put whoever wrote the Jack Slater movies and everything, they knew what they were doing. And of course, you have to. I mean, I don't know how many of the. I mean, this was what Jack Slater 4 or whatever. And it's funny when Danny goes into the movie and he's talking to Jack, and Jack is like, "I just want to be a good police officer," and yet everything I get into seems to be this outlandish and just completely batshit crazy situation.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I mean, he did the costume design on him is incredible too. The acting,
Mhm.
the costume design, the glass eye man is iconic to me.
I love I love the concept of the glass eye and how he could change it out. And I would say my favorite, and this might sound a little odd, maybe, or maybe it doesn't. My favorite has to be the smiley face.
Mine too. Yeah.
I mean, and it's just this movie. I think if I had seen this in theaters, I would have been sitting there busting out laughing through the majority of it. I know I was when I was watching it the other night in preparation for for the review. I was like, why are some of the women in this movie dressed like dominatrixes or something from the distant future or something that belongs in a sci-fi channel science fiction TV science sci-fi channel movie leak
Yeah, well, the film's got
or belongs
personality.
in
It's got a lot of personality
it
to it.
does.
It's like you compare it to other stuff that came out back in '93. The film's
Mhm.
colorful, man, and you've got interesting characters, interesting plot lines. It's different, and here's something interesting about it is at the time it was regarded as a terrible film. Okay,
Mhm.
um, it, it still, if you look at the reviews, I mean, people, I don't know how many people have gone back to revisit the film, but it's not, it doesn't have a good rating online even now, but it's
Mhm.
having a little bit of a resurgence as people go back and take another look at it. And for me, for my money, it
Mhm.
could be my favorite Schwarzenegger film. Period.
Well, here's the thing. Schwarzenegger got his start primarily as an action star. And yes, he has done like comedies and so on. He's never done anything dramatic because he knows that's not where his bread and butter's at. He has stuck to one particular genre or two
He did
particular
one.
genres,
He did one
and he's
serious
made.
film called Maggie, which you may want to check out. Arnold doing a zombie apocalypse film.
I didn't even know that movie existed. To be
Yeah,
honest with you, is it
newer
one
one.
that's a little? Is it a little more recent
Yes.
or
Yeah, yeah. And
okay? Okay, that
they
explains
figured it
it.
out. They gave him the Rambo treatment where he doesn't talk a whole lot, but he's got these
Hmm.
big scenes. He's good in
Right.
that. So, is he the right guy for drama? Probably not. But
Mhm.
Maggie is worth checking out.
Okay. Let's see if I can track it down. Definitely. But the other interesting thing is you've got all of these really okay. One character in particular is the police captain there in the police department, and he is the atypical, the absolutely atypical blowhard, loudmouth police police captain, and he's chewing out Slater and giving him all sorts of business. And at one point, Slater's just like, if you're going to fire me, just fire me and be done with it. And I think at one point, well, and eventually he does get fired.
Yeah, well, that guy didn't do shit. The police captain. I mean, what? It's like, what's that guy doing? He's just sitting behind a desk, you know.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, the only time we ever see him actually pull a gun is in the opening action sequence for Jack Slayer 3, where and I will say they did go a little bit dramatic with this move, with one particular part of this movie, and that was the fact that in the opening sequence, we see the killer, the slasher or the hacker or whatever he's called,
The
um,
Ripper.
holding the Ripper. That's it.
Yep.
Holding Jack Slater's son hostage, and we don't
Yeah.
find out until much later that in fact when Jack killed the Ripper, hmm, sorry, that the Ripper actually pulled his son over the side with him, and unfortunately the son died. Gave the movie just a little bit of drama or a slightly
Some
dramatic element to it.
some depth to it.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's a more accurate term. Some depth to it. And Jack's talking to Danny. He's like, "You don't have to have nightmares of seeing your son falling to his death every single night when you go to sleep. I have to live with that." And he's like, "I." He's like, at times I can't take it.
Yeah, well, here's the thing: is Arnold's character
Mm,
is a fucking real guy. You feel like because you see him at his apartment,
yeah,
and that's really where you're like, oh, I know who this guy is. You know, he's a careerist who has really kind of neglected his personal life, and it's sad. Where it's like, okay, now I get the relatable element to him, where he's in there his apartment. He doesn't even have any pictures hung up. You know, he's got a bed
mhm.
on the floor, and you see the life of the action hero at home, and you say, "Oh shit!" You know, that's not what I thought an action hero was all about.
Yeah, his apartment is very very Spartan, very sparsely decorated. Has next to nothing in it except a closet full of the exact same outfit and a bunch of guns. I mean, who has a wardrobe with nothing but the same type of pants, the same type of shirt, and the same jacket?
Well, it's a
It just
brilliant
it
writing move,
feeds.
though. It's a brilliant writing
It
move.
is. Yeah, it really is. I mean, you know, say what you want about this movie. Yes, it is yes, is it a spoof? Yes, is it kind of a lowbrow action film with a comedic element to it and a bit of a fairy tale element to it? Yes, but it was actually pretty well written, and I think that's
Absolutely.
one of the strengths for it.
Hmm.
So, Um,
Well, what did that tell you about his character when you take a look at where the man lives?
that his entire existence is pretty much wrapped up in his career.
And that's a tough pill to swallow. As
Yeah,
the audience, you're
it
like,
really
wow.
is.
But you
Well,
don't see that. I mean, most of the time, it's like John McClane has got the wife, and usually there's a family,
mhm,
or a house and a
yeah,
kid. This guy,
mhm,
man, is at the point where he's fully committed. Like he's got his nose to the grindstone. He's only out there being the hero. It's like when the hero
yeah.
comes home, what does he have? This guy doesn't have a whole lot, which kind of makes him endearing, at least to me. You know,
No, I would wholeheartedly agree with you. The interesting thing is, my late uncle was in law enforcement for a good 30 years, and I had the chance to talk with him on occasions about his career and some of the cases that he worked. And I had the chance to ask, because he unfortunately he was 3 times married, 3 times divorced. And I asked him, I was like, do you have any regrets? And he said to me, the one regret I have is that I didn't try harder to connect or stay connected to my children and to you. He's like, he he was very much about his career in a lot of ways. He made lieutenant before he retired. He was very proud of him, and he was very proud. He felt he had accomplished something.
he
But the
did.
one thing, yeah, he did. I mean, making detective is not easy.
No joke. Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. The parallel I see between this character and my uncle, but there is a difference, is that while Jack Slater is a action movie character who is single-minded in his pursuit to solve crimes and put the bad guy away, my uncle had both. He had his career, but he had his family, and though he had his regrets, he did do his best in his later years to try and rectify those, and for the most part, he did. Jack Slater, the interesting thing is when he goes into the real world, he is very much the fish out of water, just like Danny was a fish out of water. Because the interesting twist with this movie is Danny thinks once he gets into the movie, it's going to be a certain way, and to certain aspects, it is. But at the same time, it is not how he expects it. To him, this all seems, he's like, don't you people realize the world doesn't necessarily operate this way? The real world, not every woman that you see is a 10. And when they go to the Blockbuster store there in Los Angeles, which at least I think it's Los Angeles,
Yeah, it
and
is.
it is okay. I thought it was, but I couldn't remember. Um, and when Danny sees the cardboard cutout of Terminator 2 Judgment Day, we all know that image very, very well of Arnold on the back of the Harley with the sunglasses. But who is it instead of Arnold? It's Sly, Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah.
And Danny's like, it's not supposed to be like this. But here's the funny thing, and this is actually kind of self-referential.
Well, that's hilarious. That in and of
Yeah,
itself
it
is
is.
fucking hilarious.
Yeah, and I think this was even though he didn't do a fourth wall break, it is almost an unintentional fourth wall break when Jack says, "Yeah, this guy's great. I love him." Because we know for a little while there in the 80s and 90s there was a bit of a rivalry between Sly and Arnie,
One of the
but
best
they eventually,
rivalries of all time, though. I mean, so
yeah,
fucking hilarious. If it, guys, look, those of you watching this, go and check out the rivalry. It is some of the funniest shit of all time. Where
it
Schwarzenegger did
is.
an interview, and he goes, I pretended to be into this piece of shit movie so that Sly would get interested, and I pawned a piece of shit script off on him. and he's saying that in the interview. So funny, but uh, it's like Sly would do Rambo. Arnold comes out with Commando. You know, so no, it's excellent. It's excellent. Those two guys, and there's a great interview on Jimmy Fallon that I recommend you guys watch
Mhm.
with Sly, who, by the way, is a fucking genius of a guy. I mean, people don't give him credit. That guy's a fucking genius,
Have you
brainiac guy.
seen? Have you seen that show where he plays a wise guy that goes out to Oklahoma? I
Yes,
think I've seen clips of it. I'm like, this is perfect for him. It's
he's
got a
so
little
good.
bit of it's got a bit of a comedic edge to it, but it's also a good like crime story type of deal.
Well, I think he's
And
a genius. I really do. I think he's so underrated because when they
he
did the rough
is.
cut, they did the rough cut of Rambo
Hmm.
and First Blood, okay? And it
Yeah,
was
oh,
so
I've.
bad. Well, here's what happened. It was so bad that Sly and his producer, and he said this on Howard Stern, they wanted to
Yeah.
buy it back and burn it
Hmm.
because it was so fucking bad. And they came up with the idea to cut out all of his dialogue because he would shoot an owl or shoot a guy and he would give some stupid quip. And you had the whole film was him doing that.
Hmm.
And they just took out all the dialogue and left him with a few great dialogue sequences. But on
Hmm.
Fallon, guys, go and check this out if you have the time. He's talking about his rivalry with Arnold, and he's like, so Fallon's trying to like mend the wounds here. He's trying to draw up the bridge between them. He's like, so you guys, you had a little bit of a trouble on. They worked together on Expendables, right?
Yes, I think at
Okay,
least the first two or three.
yeah.
Schwarzenegger made an appearance. Bruce Willis made an appearance, but they were
Harrison Ford
cameos.
and Harrison
Yeah,
Ford was the chopper pilot. Okay, so
yeah,
so so Jimmy's like, you guys had a couple of problems, right? Like, but you guys were really friends, right? And Sly goes, no, we hated each other. We hated each other. But no, it's funny. It's like everybody's probably seen the clip of the knife where Arnold's got Sly's autographed knife, and he goes, "This is a knife. No, this is a knife," and he pulls out the commando knife.
yeah.
So
Although,
anyway, great rivalry. One of the all-time Hollywood stories for me.
yeah, just same here because as a kid, I grew up watching um a lot of Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone's movies. I mean, I watched the first four Rockies. I never watched Rocky Five. I had no interest. Um, I will say the first two, at least, were really, really, I think, two of the best of the series. I
Hmm.
know that they did a final film called Rocky Balboa, which was essentially Rocky in his last hurrah.
Not
I
bad.
know
No, that wasn't bad. Have you seen that?
I've seen clips of it. I haven't seen
Okay,
it through and through, but I've seen clips of it, and what I did see, I did like. I know he's
me too.
also he's kind of reprised his role as Rocky in the Creed movies, where he's training Apollo Creed's
Oh,
son.
so good.
Where it's I think isn't it Michael B. Jordan playing Creed?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
I
but
thought
but
so.
see that's another fucked up thing, and feel free to steer the conversation. Don't if I go down a road, feel free to
No,
bring me back.
I like this road because we'll bring it back, but I like this road. So go on.
Okay, all right. So that is another great story. So Stallone as Rocky in the Creed films, one of my favorite things ever. As now
Hmm.
the mentor character, and you've got all that great history, as you said, Michael B. Jordan playing Apollo's son, but they fucked Stallone out of the Creed films, which to me is really sad.
Hmm.
Another great Hollywood story is Stallone did an interview and he said, I wanted to leave the Rocky IP to my kids. I invented Rocky.
Hmm.
Okay, I wrote the first film. I mean, think of that.
Which
Stallone is a
yeah.
dude who had nothing. Stallone had to sell his dog to pay the rent. Okay, that's where he was at. And they offered him like 200,000 and he said, "No, I'm Rocky." He's like, "No, just sell us the script." He said, "No, I got to play the lead." So whatever happened, okay, but genius guy, we've established that genius guy wrote the first film by himself with nothing,
Mm-hmm.
got it made, went through problems, got it made anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but they cut him out of the new Creed, Creed 3 or 4 or whatever it is. They cut him out and he's no longer involved and he's vowed not to even see it. So to me, that's really kind of insulting, man. I mean, they cut him out of his
I
own
would
thing.
agree. Yeah, I would agree wholeheartedly. I would agree. The thing is, the action movie character or action movie star has really evolved over the decades, and even going back like to the 1930s, the 1940s. I mean, let's be honest here. The first real version or iteration of the action movie star was the cowboy, the
Mhm.
western. And if you look at the evolution of the action hero through the decades, they've gone from very single layer, not very shallow characters to some characters that have real complexity to them. And
Yeah,
even in certain instances, it hasn't been a male lead; it's been a woman. And I
sure.
think that's even another great addition. But what this movie
Yeah,
does with Last Action Hero, it gives the audience an idea of what it might be like for the character that exists in that movie. I mean, because let's be honest here, Danny absolutely positively idolizes Jack Slater. To him, Jack Slater is one of the greatest action movie stars or action movie characters of all time. Arnold Schwarzenegger is one of the greatest action movie actors of all time, and the two characters or the two personas almost blend together for him. The thing I found interesting was when they had the premiere for Jack Slater 4, and Schwarzenegger is there with Maria Shriver, his real life wife, for the premiere, and I'm thinking, wow. I'm like, they really went all in for this this whole idea of a movie within a movie within a movie, and having the actor not just play himself but play this fictional character. And here's the thing: say what you want to about Schwarzenegger's acting ability, it does have its weaknesses. I'm not gonna lie, but it takes a little bit of acting chops to separate yourself from the character that you're playing.
it does. Well,
And in
here's
this movie, he's able to do it.
mhm. Well, it's like try and get Edward Norton to do what Keanu Reeves or Schwarzenegger have done. I don't know if they could do it. I mean, it's like you've got these actors who are in their specific lanes. Can you really take a dramatic actor and have them successfully pull off an action film hero? I don't know. I don't know. So it's like I get what you're saying, but it's at the same time some of that is imposed upon us as viewers of film. It's like that's what the critics believe. It's like, but do I want to buy into that?
The the thing is, everybody's going to have their particular actor or actress that they're going to be more inclined to go see in an action movie. We're going not so much for the film. We're going to see the incentive or the motivation for us as the audience is: do I like this person that I'm going to be seeing on screen?
Right.
And it it all boils down to personal preference, what we've been exposed to in our adolescence and our teenage years and so on, is going to kind of at first mold what we're going to key to. But as we grow up and we grow older, that is obviously going to change. But there is still going to be a part of us who still wants to kind of revisit our youth. And
Yeah.
that's why we go back to these movies like Last Action Hero, and we kind of put ourselves in the position of Danny, who just absolutely, Granted, even after he comes out of the move, after he gets Jack back into his own world and everything and saves his life, he is still going to be that fan. He's still going to be that fan of Schwarzenegger. He's still going to want to go see the next Jack Slayer movie because he wants to be a part of the adventure, and especially now that he has been a part of the adventure. I mean, one of my favorite parts of this movie is when Danny's in the movie and he's telling him, this is going to happen, and this is going to happen, and that's going to happen, and the stakes are always going to be higher because this is the sequel. And to Jack, it all seems like nonsense. And one of my favorite moments is when Danny's there in the apartment or the house after he got blown up and or trashed by Benedict and all of his henchmen, and and Danny takes a notepad and writes a word on it. He's like, "Say this," and Jack is like, "No, I won't say that word. I don't want to say that word." And we all pretty much know the word that Danny's trying to get him to say. He's like, "Yeah, exactly. You know why you're not going to say that word? Because it's a PG-13 movie."
Right.
I mean,
Yeah, it's so good. It's so good. Not to cut you off, but it is. Have you seen the film End of Days?
yes. I actually, with Schwarzenegger, yes. I actually really, it's not in my top 5 or 10 of my favorite Schwarzenegger films, but it is, I do enjoy it.
Do
I
you
will
see a
admit.
correlation between the main character at all?
I would say to varying degrees, yes, because
Well,
here's the thing.
well, that was a
Um,
guy in End of Days who had the
mhm.
kind of the same thing, where his wife was dead.
Well, his
Okay,
wife and his daughter both.
yeah, and you had
Yeah.
Schwarzenegger trying to play up that dramatic element,
Hmm.
obviously to a more significant degree in End of Days, but
Hmm.
um, do you see a correlation there? I mean, it's like a
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I would say most definitely. And yes, it is a little bit of a trope. It is a bit tropey, because he's playing the depressed police officer, or not police officer, but security guard. You could almost say they're interchangeable. The title of the profession that he's performing in here. Um, he's the depressed police officer or security agent who is just single minded on his career, and that's it. And he's lost all of his family, or he's lost a family member, so he's just poured himself into his career, and he's very depressed, he's very downtrodden. We see a scene early on in the film where he's sitting in his apartment, it's all dark and depressing, and he's actually holding a semi-automatic pistol to his forehead, and he's contemplating killing himself.
Mhm.
Granted, we don't see that same thing in Last
Who's his
Action Hero
buddy in
with the
that?
character.
I
Hmm?
forget who's his buddy who comes in and kind of saves.
Kevin Pollock.
Yeah, Kevin Pollock.
Yeah.
Love
Well,
Kevin.
yeah.
Another underrated guy.
Well, here's the interesting thing. This End of Days was just a little bit of a reunion for at least 2 cast members from the movie The Usual Suspects, if you're familiar with that film at all.
Of
Because
course.
Kevin Pollock and Gabriel Byrne both played really interesting characters in The Usual Suspects. Personally one of my all-time favorite films. It has one of the greatest endings of a film ever done. So,
Yeah, it's too bad
and
with Kevin.
with Kevin Spacey.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, but you know what? I live by this. I live by this particular mindset, and I still hold to it. I am able to separate the art from the artist, and I can appreciate the art even if I don't particularly care for the artist who's doing the performance.
Well, I mean,
Yes,
it
Kevin's.
popped into my mind when you mentioned Maria Shriver is in the
Mm-hmm.
film. Okay,
Yeah.
but
Mm-hmm.
that for me does not detract from what the film is. But in
No.
other on other occasions, it could. I mean, depending on what
Yeah.
the problem is.
Yeah. Definitely. Well, the other interesting thing is we see, I think, almost a parody of Schwarzenegger himself in that particular scene at the movie premiere. He's playing almost a parody of himself, where he's all end about marketing and doing all these different type of promotions and these new projects and all this other stuff. And he even tries to recruit himself as a stunt double. And I'm thinking, Arnie, are you parodying yourself here? And if so, it shows that he is able to not take his own self too
Yeah.
seriously,
Hmm.
which I think was actually a nice little wink and nod to the audience, to the
Yeah.
camera, to so
Well, it's hard.
um
I would assume it would be hard to have some humility as a guy like that when you're
mhm.
the number one action star on earth. I mean, but
Yeah,
to me, the film is really a great accomplishment for that reason, also, where he's not afraid to poke fun at himself. And I think, like I said, the film's got a lot of personality, but you get Schwarzenegger's personality in the film too, in a
yeah,
lot of ways. So, by the way, he was also executive producer on this. So he was
yeah.
involved in the behind the scenes, the script,
Hmm.
and he helped to craft the film. So really, it's a great testament to him that he's not um, a stiff. You know what I mean? He can laugh at himself. He can,
Yes.
because at the same time, you got to keep in mind, it's like this film is also poking fun at his career, his entire career. So it's like, to me, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. Do want to say hello to the chat, Ferris of Ferris Geeks World. Ferris says, I was born a year after this movie came out. When I saw it on TV, it was hilarious. It's like Arnold's other attempts at action comedies after Kindergarten Cop. Yes, very much so, Ferris. Let me ask you, Zach, have you ever seen Kindergarten Cop?
No, no,
No.
no, no. I mean,
I
I saw the clip. What's the famous clip?
Where he punches the abusive father?
No, he says it's something. It's a line he says. Shut
Oh,
up.
it's
Is that it?
that's one, but there's another one. It's not a tumor. It's not a tumor at
Yeah,
all. That's the other one.
yeah. I mean, look, I that's I don't know. Maybe I should. Maybe I would. I don't know, but I haven't.
Um it's not a by any means a bad movie. It's let me give you the premise. He plays a undercover cop, and him and his partner are teaming up to or are going on a undercover case to a little town in Oregon. And the woman and everything, his partner, was actually a elementary school teacher before she joined the police force. Unfortunately, she gets real bad food poisoning, and he ends up having to go in and play the kindergarten teacher. Um, there is one scene. Well, there's actually several scenes with one particular actress that I think you would enjoy. I don't know if you remember this actress, Linda Hunt. She
Of
plays.
course. Yes,
Okay,
I did.
she
Yeah.
plays the principal in Kindergarten Cop. There is a scene and everything. I just kind of mentioned it, and I don't want to completely ruin it, but at the same time, it's a really great scene. I can't help but not reference it. One of the kids in his class is being beat up by his own father, and the kid shows up late to school, and he sees the bruise on the back of the kid's neck, and he starts to march out of the school, and he chases down, well, not chases, but he starts to question the mother, and she's like, I'm sorry, but he fell downstairs, and he's like, you all make the same excuse. He fell down the stairs or he hit a door and blah blah blah. And the father gets out of the car, and he's like, oh, you must be Mr. Kimball, the teacher I've heard so much about. And he just pins him against the car, and he ends up belting him in the stomach. And there's a bunch of kids that come out of the school right when he does that. The father is slumped over on the ground, and the principal comes out, and she's kind of got this glare on her face, and he takes her. He's in her office, and she's like, "I looked you up. You were never ever a teacher of any kind." And she's like, "You've done all these unorthodox things, but they work." But there's one line towards the end of the scene, and she's like, "Now I have one more question, and please do not lie." She's like, "How did it feel to hit that son of a bitch?" And Schwarzenegger's character, Jack Kimball or Kimball, um, looks at her and says, "It felt great." She's like, "I thought so," because Linda Hunt's character, she seems like the type of principal who would know what's going on with her students, at least the
That's
ones that
so
she's.
Linda Hunt. I think I know who that is. That's the lady from NCIS,
Yes,
right?
Hetty. Yep,
Okay.
that's her. Yep,
Okay.
she is absolutely any
She's
movie that
good.
she is.
She is
Yeah,
good.
she is. I love her to death. I mean, she
Well,
is.
she
She is just about
reminds
the
me of
only
that.
reason.
She reminds me of that woman from Incredibles, Edna.
Oh,
Do you know who I'm talking about?
Edna Mode.
Yep.
Yes, they have the similar haircut, and they do wear. I think Linda Hunt does wear glasses, or she might wear glasses. Linda Hunt was actually another movie that I did a review on back in October for one of my other streams. Um,
Which
it's a
one?
movie called The Relic. The
Okay.
Relic with Tom Sizemore and Penelope Ann Miller. It takes place in the Chicago Field Museum. Linda Hunt plays the museum's curator, and she is absolutely she is she. Yes, it's a horror movie. Yes, it's very gruesome, but at the same time, it is one of my all-time favorite creature features. I love this movie.
Yeah. Well,
So
she's good. I saw her. She's one of those actors who pops up and shit. Where I had
yeah,
seen her in a film that where she played a therapist. Okay,
hmm,
recently, semi recently, I can't remember what it was, but
okay.
I mean, she's a character actor, so you see her once in a while.
Ferris said, "Here, I'll just Zach, you just fan casted the live action Incredibles for Edna.
I mean, there's
Please
nobody
don't do a
better,
live action version of the
right?
Incredibles."
Well,
Hmm?
I frankly, I mean, I'm surprised they didn't have her do the voice because it looks exactly like her. Because that lady, by the way,
You
that
know,
lady in real life is short as hell. I think what is she,
yes,
4'5" or something?
yeah, she is incredibly short, but you know what? Even though she is that short, she has a big personality. Even when she's acting against, let's be honest here. Arnold Schwarzenegger is what? 6'1", 6'2", roughly. Former Mr. Olympus,
Yep.
former Mr. Universe. She may have to look up at him when she was talking to him in that scene or any of the other scenes that she's in with him. But by no means do you feel like she would even consider backing down from him.
Yeah, she's
She
got no
has,
fear.
yeah, exactly. She has absolutely no fear. But it's funny, kind of getting back into Last Action Hero. Um, Danny has all these presuppositions about what it'd be like to be in the movie, and then he finally gets into the movie,
Well, his
and he's
first scene is him waking up in the back of the car,
yes,
right?
yeah, mm-hmm.
So he just kind of looks up and sees kind of the palm trees passing. He sticks his head up. Schwarzenegger's firing the gun. Who are you? Which, by the way, is almost a cliche type of film trope where the guy looks in the back seat. There's the kid. So it works perfectly. And you mentioned the police chief earlier. Another
Mm-hmm.
film cliche. So they're not afraid to play the cliches up. But his introduction
No,
is
by no
totally
means.
a scene you would see in something else. You could see that in True Lies or whatever you want. Where
Oh
he
yeah.
turns around, there's a kid in the back seat. That's happened a million times.
Oh yeah. Most definitely. The other, you know, and there's one point where the police captain or the police chief is so angry that he's speaking gibberish, and Jack and Danny are sitting in his office, and they're like, do you even understand what he's saying? And he's actually got steam coming out of his ears. He's
I
that
know.
angry. I
Well,
mean,
the angry police chief is another cliche. I mean, every fucking film, you got the angry police chief. God damn it, Barnes, what are you doing? You see that over and over again.
yeah, absolutely. Um, Not to mention, this is one thing that did give me a bit of that gave me very much a grin, or I smiled. They had, I don't know how they pulled this off, because this was the early '90s. The technology was by no means perfected by this point. You actually have Humphrey Bogart as, I guess, Sam Spade in the police headquarters, and I'm like, I'll be damned. They got Jack Spade on the force.
Yeah. Well, here's
I loved that.
well, let me throw this out there: is the film is fun, okay, and that's not something we're used to,
Yes.
man. I mean, at least in recent years, it's like it's so hard to get a movie that's fun and enjoyable, and you have a great time. Like we said, we've got a great mixture. You've got a little bit of drama, you got a little bit of um, kind of spoofing going on, but it's a fun ride and you have a good time watching it. And that's not something that I've seen in probably the last 10 years, man. I mean, what's the last fun movie you've seen? There's not that many being produced. So for your audience, if you want something,
No,
just
there
have a
isn't.
good time, crack a beer, or whatever you're doing, eat dinner. This is a great movie just to throw on. It is. I think it is. Still holds
It
up for
is, and
100%.
oh, even though this is my first time seeing it, this will not be the last time I watch this. This is definitely going on the list of, I'm tired of had a crappy day at work. What movie am I going to watch? Last Action Hero. This is definitely be one of those unwind from work movies that I'll pop in every once in a while, maybe once a month, twice a
Well,
month. It just depends on how I'm feeling.
it's
But yeah, this
self-aware. It's
I
self-aware, but it's not pretentious about it.
yeah, and that is the great thing about this. It is self-aware, but it doesn't take itself overly seriously. Because here's the concept: a kid in the real world idolizes this character portrayed by Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's best friends with this old guy that runs this old, broken down, run down movie theater that once was a very beautiful and glamorous and a real landmark of a film, or of a theater. And now it's got graffiti all over it. It's running down. You don't have people coming into it like you used to, and it's kind of a shame, because this was once a beautiful movie theater. Okay, but I'll keep her going, don't you worry about it. And Danny goes to this theater because, not because of what it looks like now, but because his life is very humdrum. It's very boring. It's very plain, and he's always missing school. He's missing class, and his mother is working one or two jobs to keep them going. And she's like, "You keep your ass in this apartment and don't leave, especially after dark." But Danny can't help it. Well, he could help it, but he doesn't listen. Let's put it that way. I know I'm kind of spoiling a lot of this movie, but at the same time, you can't talk about this movie without going into spoilers. But for those of you that are going to catch us live or catch it on the replay, I would definitely encourage you, if you have never watched Last Action Hero, give it a chance. Watch it at least once. And if you don't like it, okay, fine. Fair enough. You don't like it. But if you do, I want you to come back to the comments in a few weeks or a month or whenever you end up watching this movie and say, hey, Ambassador and Zach, you were right. I did love this movie. Or, hey, Ambassador and Zach, it wasn't my thing. Fair enough. You didn't like it. I'm not going to give you any grief for it. But I think this movie taps into something that's very integral to us as people, whether you're a man or woman or whatever the case may be. Going to the movies, going to the theater, it's one of those simple pleasures of our childhood. It reconnects us to a moment or a memory or whatever the case may be that was very fond to us. I mean, one of my own personal favorite memories of going to the movies with my family, with my mom and my grandmother. We went to see one of the first, I think it was either the first or second Police Academy movies. And we went to have dinner beforehand at McDonald's and everything. And this is something we would do every once or twice a month. If there was a movie that we all wanted to go see, we go have dinner, go someplace, quick and easy, and then go to the theater. And I remember walking out of Police Academy with my grandmother, and I was like, that was so damn funny. I mean, I know the Police Academy movies are very dated now, but for me, they're still some of the funniest movies I've ever seen on in theaters or on TV or on home video. So,
You waiting for me to jump in here?
whenever you, I saw your message, or so I was just going. So go ahead, bud.
All right. Look, I mean, the film is underrated, man, and it doesn't really have the kind of love I think it deserves. Okay, and it's a real movie, and that's really the thing that I miss about stuff like this, where you go to the theater. It's not a franchise; it's its own little world, and it brings you into it for 2.5 hours, and you have a great time.
Yes.
Okay, and look, there's a lot to break down. I mean, we've been talking for an hour, and there's still probably a lot we could discuss. I mean, it's a great film. You've got great action sequences. Yes. I miss that kind of shit where you're not setting me up for the next installment. How
you're
crazy is that?
Setting me up for the next scene.
Well, no, the next installment. Where it's like, I give you $25. I bring my family, I bring my girlfriend, I bring my kids, whatever it is, and all of a sudden you're in for $100 going to the theater now, and it's the first installment of a 3-part series. What the fuck is that all about? I miss the age where you could go and watch a film and have a great time. We're talking about tomorrow, Tony Scott films. You would go and have a great time for 2 hours, and that was it. It was a self-contained story.
Yes.
Last Action Hero is a great little film on its own, and it doesn't need other shit to it to make it great. It is great.
Yeah, exactly. Well, hence why I termed this particular series No Sequel November.
Fuck sequels. Well, here's the deal.
These movies
Man, I am so pissed off. Here's the thing. When it comes to sequels, all right, here's what it is Terminator 1 was so fucking good that it warranted a sequel. They didn't come in with 5 movies. Okay, Terminator 1 was so fucking good, it warranted them doing more. Same with Alien. Ridley Scott didn't come to them with a franchise. He said, "Here's my awesome little one-off."
Yes.
Okay, it's a self-contained. It's got a beginning, middle, and end, and it was so fucking good that they said we have to do more.
Yes.
That's what it's all about. A great movie warrants a sequel. But now, dude, it's like, fuck, man. I mean, it's like Rebel Moon looks good, it's interesting. Zack Snyder, okay. But here's the thing: there's already 2 of them. Why is there already 2 of them? Let me take a look at it. Let's see how it does. Let's see what the cultural impact is. It's like Indiana Jones.
Mm-hmm.
Raiders of the Lost Ark warranted them doing more.
Yes, it was that good because it was an intriguing character, it was an interesting character, not to mention it was Harrison Ford, one of the greatest action movie stars of our generation. Let's be honest.
But not back then. But not at the time.
No. He had to earn his way up, but you know what? He did. Because
that's another great story. Have you reviewed that?
The Raiders movies or the Indiana Jones movies? Yeah, I did those a long time ago. The only ones I have not done is 1 because I refuse to do Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and 2 because I have not seen Dial of Destiny. But I'm kind of on. I'll be honest. I am kind of on the fence about Dial of Destiny because I'm just thinking, did Indiana Jones necessarily need 5 films? Did Indiana Jones necessarily need 4 films?
No.
3 films? 3 films was good. 3 films was good.
Well, they got a little greedy about it. Okay, but another great Hollywood story is Spielberg wanted to direct 007. And George came to him and said, "I have something better." So there you go.
As much as I like George Lucas, and obviously I do, Georgie, you should have left well enough alone with The Last Crusade. That was a perfect ending for Indiana Jones. No more needed to be done.
He's kind of a crazy guy, man, where the original title of that film was Indiana Jones and the Attack of the Giant Ants.
You gotta be joking.
I'm not kidding you.
Oh, dear heavens.
No, George, I mean, I think with age, he became antiquated. Okay, but prequels I love.
Maybe a little.
Yeah, well, prequels I love. Red Dawn, have you seen that?
Oh, yeah, the from the 1980s?
No. George Lucas did a film about the Tuskegee Airmen called Red Dawn.
Oh, you mean Red Tails?
Red Tails, okay.
No, that one I have not seen. Not seen.
Yeah, it sucks.
That's what I've heard. I've heard of it, but I've never seen it. I've heard it was not particularly good. So, but okay, getting back into Last Action Hero, let me ask you,
sure,
what are some of your favorite action sequences out of this movie?
Oh, well, there's so many good ones. I mean, the number one for me is the apartment battle. Okay, where Schwarzenegger's got the shotgun. You've got Charles Dance, involved.
Mm-hmm.
For me, that's probably my favorite. I mean, even above the final duel there on the rooftop. I don't know. Some of them are goofy. It's like the one with the helicopter. It's like, okay, it's funny, it's enjoyable, but the real badass one is that first one, up in the hills.
Oh yeah, definitely. I would have to say one of my favorite action sequences is actually at the funeral, where somehow or another Danny just magically learns how to figures out how to work a 3-ton hydraulic crane. And you're thinking, the operator runs off, and he's like, wait, I need you. And he's like, and he's got that look on his face like, oh shit, how the hell am I gonna move this thing like Jack wants me to? And just miraculously, he figures out the right levers to use to move the crane over to where Jack is at so he can toss the body of that dead mobster onto it. And then at the end of that whole thing, where Jack and the body fall into the La Brea tar pits, and Jack gets out, and the body, the explosives in the body blow up, and you see that great big bubble form and everything from all the tar and the gas and everything. And Jack's just wiping the tar off of him, and Danny exclaims, he's like, usually tar sticks to people. And he's like, well, hey, you keep telling me it's all a movie, so why are you surprised? And miraculously, Jack's daughter shows up with a change of clothes in her big, souped up pickup truck.
Well, that's kind of the great thing about the logic of the film is, the film knows it's a film. I mean, and that is not true with almost any other movie. It knows it's a film. I mean, it's willing to give itself the benefit of the doubt and present the next step to itself, obviously, without having a problem. I mean, it's like we're doing tomorrow, right? Enemy of the State and Crimson Tide. It's like Gene Hackman walks out into the middle of the road there in Enemy of the State and fires a shotgun and steals a car. Okay. So that's that movie giving itself an in. Like, how do they get out of this? It's like, well, here's how. This movie doesn't care how.
Yeah, because here's the thing. You're dealing with a completely...
Do you know what scene I'm talking about?
I do, yes. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Very much so.
I was laughing my ass off. He walks into the middle of the highway and fires a shotgun and steals a BMW.
And then he says to Will Smith's character, this car is a piece of shit. They're driving a BMW and he calls a BMW a piece of shit. I'd love to have a BMW. Don't get me wrong. I've got a Lincoln Town car. I'm very happy.
I know.
But BMW, oh man. Here's the thing. You're dealing with two different types of genre of action movies. With Last Action Hero and Enemy of the State or even Crimson Tide. One is meant to be a spoof. The other two are either a spy or espionage type of action movie, and the other one is more of a military action movie or military drama action movie, so to speak. The Last Action Hero very much plays up the campiness and the goofiness of the action movie. That is the type of action movie that it is.
Yeah.
I mean, when you've got a kid on a bicycle trying to play chicken with a killer, an assassin, and he's thinking, this'll work, and then he realizes, wait, I'm the cheesy comedy relief. This won't work. And he veers off to the side off the road and everything and doesn't get hit by the car.
Well, it's goofy. The film is goofy. Okay. And I think the first scene where Schwarzenegger is investigating, he goes up to the front door of a house and the house blows up. So it's like that lets you know where you're at.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and when they're talking about the favorite second cousin, I'm thinking, who has a favorite second cousin? A favorite second cousin? You just have a second cousin. That's it. Like, they are going that far out of their way to have some sort of family member that Jack would care enough about to risk life and limb to save or solve the case of their murder for.
Yeah, that is second cousin. That's ridiculous.
That is, and that is the whole thrust of what a cheesy action movie would do. I mean, think about it. In the first Die Hard, it was the wife. In the second Die Hard, it was the wife again. In the third Die Hard, it was a random guy from the neighborhood. I think in the last
Oh
Die
wow.
Hard,
Okay.
that they did, it was John's son, who is now a special agent or some other damn thing. Even in the more serious serious aspects of an action movie, they're still being spoofy.
Okay. I've got some wild information here for you. Okay. The
Okay.
guy who wrote the script.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Zach Penn.
I recognize that name.
Okay. Is also the guy who wrote the Avengers,
I knew it.
the
Yep.
first one, and
Yeah.
X2. Okay. X-Men 2.
Kidding.
No.
Wow. No wonder the writing in this movie was so good, even though it's a cheesy action movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Charles Dance.
What a fucking resume, huh?
Yeah, that is a whoa.
Okay, so
That,
so there's
like I said, I knew I recognized those names.
three guys credited. You've also got Adam Leaf, who appears to be like a comedy writer. Okay,
Mhm. Yeah.
and we've got finally Shane Black, who we all know, the fucking guy who did Iron Man 3.
Yep.
Who I'm not a great fan of this guy, but he also wrote. Oh shit! Okay, here we go. Predator.
Mm-hmm.
The
He
Nice
played
Guys.
he played the comedy guy, the dirty jokes.
Okay, so also the Nice Guys with Ryan Gosling and Russell Crowe, and Kiss Kiss Bang Bang with Downey and
Val Kilmer.
there you go.
Yep.
So
I love that movie.
that's a great
love
movie. It is.
It is. It really is. Kiss, kiss, bang, bang. Do you know what you would say? You know what you would find if you looked up the word idiot in a dictionary? No, I don't. Your face, because you freaking are.
Yeah, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang is classic.
Oh, dude. Oh man, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. I mean, I've only seen it like once or twice, but I need to get a copy.
Maybe I'll give you mine. Maybe I'll send it to you. All right.
No,
So
I'll get my own. I appreciate it, Zach.
well, let me throw this out there though, and you can comment on this and
Sure.
hold your thought here. Is I am basically, and this is almost embarrassing to say, but I am kind of a comedy snob. Okay. It's like I think of the great comedies out there for me personally. Like what appeals to me, it's got to be well written.
Yeah.
It's got to be well done. It's like my number one comedies, and these might even be interesting for you to review here on your channel. Vice Principals, okay, might be the top of the pyramid for my great comedy projects. But it's like Curb Your Enthusiasm. For me, comedy's got to be of quality. Okay, I think I've said this on your show before. I like good shit. Doesn't matter what genre. I like good stuff. Mm-hmm. So to me, this is good stuff. But comedy, it's like you were talking about Kindergarten Cop. To me, it looks retarded. Okay, I don't know. I don't know if I can say that, but it does. Okay.
Here's the thing. Kind of going into my own personal life. When it comes to my taste in movies compared to Mother Ambassador, we jive on most things. When it comes to action movies, we jive on action movies. On the rare occasion when we want to go see a drama, we kind of jive on that. When it's like a horror movie, like the old school horror movies, like from the 80s or 90s or even the early 2000s, like with the Scream movies, we jived on those. Comedy is the one thing we don't jive on because we both have a different sensibility in what makes us laugh. The same is true of me and Madam Ambassador. Comedy is the one thing that is somewhat more subjective from person to person. Personally, my all-time favorite comedies, you may cringe, and that's okay because it is a personal preference. I would definitely say not Kinder, but Last Action Hero. I would consider both in the genre of an action movie, but also in the category of a comedy. It is a good comedy, but it's also a good action movie as well. It's hard for me to pin down my number one all-time favorite comedy because I have a lot of comedy movies that I absolutely love. But if I had to pin down to like maybe one or two, not that Last Action Hero would rank super high, but it is good. The one I go to the most often, the one that I watch the most often, the one that I know will guarantee give me a laugh is Airplane. The
Okay.
original Airplane with Robert Hayes, Julie Haggerty, and Leslie Nielsen.
And
And also
Jonathan Banks.
yeah. And also Robert Stack.
Yeah,
So
well, that's fine. I respect that. When it comes to comedy, I'm particularly snobbish because there's so many
that's okay.
terrible comedies.
That's
There
true too.
is. You got to
Yeah.
admit that. There's so many piece of shit comedies out there where it's like, God, you know, to me, that might be one of the most overextended genres out there where every year, at least up until recently, you would have like 5 piece of shit comedies. It's like, dude, where's my car? I would rather be shot than watch that film.
I would rather you not be shot, but I have a confession to make. I absolutely love that movie, even though I know it's dumb as hell.
No, no, no.
Like I
I
said,
did not
Zach,
see it. No, you can't convince me. It's
and I
dumb.
wouldn't even look, Zach. Here's the thing: I know it's stupid. I know it is horrendously stupid, but it's one of those movies that circles from stupid to mind-numbingly dumb, all the way back around to awesome.
Oh God, it's so hard.
Look,
I mean,
like
comedy to
like
me
I
is
said,
might be
like
the
it,
hardest thing to do.
now I will say, and I can say this with a certain degree of certainty. One of my all-time favorites, I would say it's in my top 3 comedies, is and always will be Blazing Saddles.
Martin Short and Steve Martin.
No, Blazing Saddles.
I've never seen it.
It's one of Mel Brooks's greatest comedies of all time. And you've how can you? I'm not mad. I'm not mad. I'm shocked. I don't think I've ever met someone who's ever seen Blazing Saddles.
Well, I'm trying to
Practically
think
every
great Mel Brooks films. I mean, Young Frankenstein, I've seen.
yeah.
Okay, I've seen. What's the Dracula film he did?
Dracula Den Lovingly. That was actually the second. That was the only that was with Leslie Nielsen, who
Okay,
played
I've
Dracula.
seen that. Yeah, and I don't. I like Mel Brooks.
You need. Okay, let me give you a rundown of the cast for Blazing Saddles.
Well, wait a minute.
Cleavon
Okay,
Little,
first of all,
Gene White.
first of all, we have got to review because I haven't seen, and I assume you haven't seen either. Mel Brooks released a film this year.
You're kidding.
No, and he wrote.
I
he
know
wrote-
that he had done I think it was a Hulu limited series of History of the World Part 2, which I still want to watch because I
Sure.
have History of
He
the
did a
World
movie.
Part 1.
He did a film this year.
What was the name of the film?
Let me get it for you.
All right, once you get that, I want to tell you the cast for Blazing Saddles because I guarantee you, I tell you this cast, you'll want to watch this movie.
History of the World Part 2.
That's the one I just mentioned. Yeah,
That's a
it got
TV
released
show?
on Hulu. It was released as a limited series. Yes.
Oh. Oh,
So so
a limited
okay.
series. Come on, man.
Well, yeah, I would have preferred if they had done it as a movie, but at the same time, you get more time to tell a fuller story and a better story and a more funny story. Okay, Blazing Saddles.
Okay.
Cleavon Little, Gene Wilder, Harvey Korman, Alex Karras, Madeline Kahn. Um, oh heavens.
Related, the guy you mentioned, related to Roger Corman?
Not that I'm aware of anyway. I don't think so.
Okay.
Um, Harvey Korman was a cast member on the old uh comedy variety show, The Carol Burnett Show. If you're familiar with her at all,
Yes, I am.
you very
Yeah,
well.
I like
Okay.
Carol.
Okay. Harvey Korman plays a character by the name of Hedy Lamar. He is a government bureaucrat. Mel Brooks actually makes several on-screen appearances as the governor of the territory where the town is. It is okay. I can't show a clip on here because if the particular clip I would show, I would probably get taken down for it.
Okay. All right.
Blazing Saddles is one of those movies they could never, ever, ever, ever remake.
Well, here's the thing
But
is I am
because
prejudiced towards older films. I am. Okay. It's like there are so few that I have seen and that I'm willing to take the dive into. But I listen. I respect your point of view in Blazing Saddles. Look, I'll dive into it.
dude, I'll send you some clips later.
But I love Gene. I mean, that's really kind of the main attraction to it. I
Oh,
love Gene.
Gene Wilder in Blazing Saddles, he is a riot, an absolute riot. The premise of it is a spoof of the Western. Not to mention, Slim Pickens is also in this movie. He was one of the old timey Western stars from back in the day, and Mel Brooks convinced him to get on board. Here's the thing: if I remember correctly, if it had not been for the success of Blazing Saddles, Young Frankenstein would have never been, because Young Frankenstein was done after Blazing Saddles.
Well, Gene is so good. So I mean, yeah,
You
I
will love
have you reviewed the film?
Blazing Saddles.
Yeah.
I don't honestly recall if I have. So
Okay. Well, if you haven't, if I check it out, maybe you and I could talk about it.
Yes, absolutely. I would love to get the take of a first time viewing from you, because
Okay.
you are gonna be
Well, Gene is so good. I mean, you mentioned Gene Wilder, and
hmm
he's
Madeline
so
Kahn
fun.
is in it. Like I said, Madeline
Has
Kahn is
he
in it
ever
as
done a
well.
bad job? Gene Wilder has never done a bad job in the history of his career, man.
No.
It's like, I mean, what comes to mind when you mention Gene Wilder is the scene from Young Frankenstein where where he's talking with that creepy ass guy, and he's like,
Igor.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
and he's like, where did you get this brain? And the guy goes, from Abby Normal. And he goes,
You mean to tell I can do this quote. You mean to tell me that I put an abnormal brain into a 7 feet tall, 20-foot long gorilla? You ruined me. You ruined me. He starts choking Igor.
he's got a great voice too.
Oh.
Where he's, oh my god! I mean, his voice is so good. Abnormal. He's got such a good voice.
Abby someone.
Abby Normal.
Abby Normal. Trust me, if you love Young Frankenstein as much as you say you do,
Well, I do love that guy, and
you will love Blazing Saddles.
I'll tell you a
You
story
will love
about
Blazing
I'll
Saddles.
tell you a story about him after we wrap up.
Okay, all right. Enough of a deviation off. Back onto Last Action Hero. The one of the things that I found the most interesting about this film is the kid. Ferris? Yes. I would say you could probably consider True Lies an action comedy because there are comedic aspects to it.
I would say
But
almost accidentally with that.
yes, definitely. Unintentionally humorous, definitely.
All right, give me 2
The
minutes.
kid.
Right back.
Okay, you're fine, bud. One of the aspects of Last Action Hero that I found the most intriguing was the kid, Danny. And for the simple fact that I think we all have been in Danny's shoes. Like, what would happen if we got teleported into our favorite action movie star's movie? And how would we react? Would we kind of go along with it? Or would we be more like Danny and be like, well, this is going to happen next. That's going to happen next. The other's going to happen next. Would we kind of suck all of the joy out of it? Or would we kind of incorporate ourselves into the story that is playing out and not give away everything like Danny does? I think, speaking for myself, and that's the only person I can speak for, wasn't the kid from Last Action Hero also appeared in My Girl too? I felt like the actor was his last feature performance, and we never saw him again. Ferris, I think you might be right, because here's the thing. There were two movies which featured seemingly up and coming young actors. One was this guy, was this kid for Last Action Hero, and the other one was Edward Furlong for Terminator 2 Judgment Day. Now, I don't know if it was just the fact that Schwarzenegger overshadowed both of them, or maybe they just weren't as good as they were billed out to be, or whatever the case is. But yeah, Ferris, I think you're right. I think this kid only did a couple of movies and then he kind of went bye bye. But as I was saying, speaking for myself, in terms of how would I have reacted being thrust into the scenario of being in my favorite action hero's latest action adventure movie, I would probably be more of the mind, I'm going to play along. I'm not going to give anything away, and I'm going to kind of enjoy the ride here, and I'm going to do my best to make out of this alive.
I think my strategy would be far more cowardly. Okay, I think I would immediately part company with the film's lead. Okay, immediately, right away, and I would go and get an apartment, and I would start my life within the film. Okay, I'm not getting killed. I'm not getting shot. Let me just tell you, that's never going to happen. I'm not going to be in the back seat. No.
And that's your call, and I respect it. Me, I'm gonna be like, oh hell, I'm in a movie. I'm okay. Let me. Okay, that's probably just me to say this. If I were to be, if there was any one action movie that I would want to be a part of, one that I knew I could potentially survive, one that would be a lot of fun, and one that wouldn't necessarily mean that I might lose life or limb.
Don't pick Tron. Okay, Tron, you'll get killed. You get fucked up in Tron.
No, I wouldn't pick Tron. um, I would have to say, and this might be kind of a surprise for you and for all of you watching. It's also a 1990s movie. It's one that I absolutely love. I've watched it more times than I can count, and I still love it to this day. The Fifth Element.
You
'Cause
still get killed in The Fifth Element.
No, because I'm with Corbin Dallas. I'll survive. If Ruby Rod and Vito Cornelius can survive, I can survive.
Okay, I'll pick mine. I'll do Superman. Let that guy protect me.
Not a bad choice. But you're picking one of the most powerful
Of course.
action heroes or superheroes of all time.
You
Of course
have
you're
to.
going to survive.
Maybe not. Ask Lois Lane in Superman 2.
No, it was actually Superman 1 that she died in, not Superman 2.
Which one did he rotate the planet?
That was Superman the movie, the first one.
The first one? Okay.
Because the second one's where he...
Which one had Richard Pryor?
That was Superman 3. I've never seen it.
You never saw it?
No. I've only seen the first two Superman movies, and I've only seen a review of Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. The last Superman movie I saw in...
Wait. What a piece of shit title.
Yes.
What the fuck is that? The Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. Fuck out of here with that.
To answer your question, Ferris, have you guys talked about Decker? I felt like he was one of my favorite aspects of Last Action Hero, not to mention he speaks madly fast until steam comes out of his ears. I didn't mention that particular part, Ferris, but yeah, Decker, you want to deck him. You want to deck Decker because he's an ass. Yes, he's the captain, but he's still an ass. And I cannot stand an asshole police captain. No captain acts that way. Not in real life, no police captain acts this way. This is a parody of a parody of a parody, but you know what? It's still a funny parody. But yeah, Decker, that guy, you want to do what Jack does to him. Shut up! I'm going to go out, I'm going to do what I do, and you're going to like it. Essentially is what Jack says.
So if you got sucked into a film, okay, would you start shooting people?
Just aimlessly? No.
No, if you knew it was a film, though, you'd get involved in the action, or you'd do what?
No, I would definitely get involved in the action because I know I can handle myself. I know I have the capability myself in a tense situation. I might not hit everything on the first shot, but my aim is good enough. I know that I could most likely survive. I might get a few bumps and scrapes and everything, but you know what? Chicks dig scars.
so you've been to the range before then, huh?
I never had a chance, but I know just inherently that my aim is good enough. I aim at something, I'm going to hit it. So,
well, I mean, what if you're a stormtrooper in your ability?
I'm going to be the most accurate stormtrooper in the history of the Empire. They're going to elevate me to the rank of general within a week.
Well, the most
you survived all this?
Hey, that's not saying a whole lot.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I'm going to stand out. If I survive and I am a good shot and I kill a bunch of rebels, somebody's going to eventually notice.
They might let you be Captain Phasma.
Oh, no.
Yes.
Nope.
The Ambassador, guys, Gwendolyn Christie, who are we talking about? In an alternate reality, the Ambassador became Captain Phasma.
No way. Let's see. Ferris says, my favorite part in the movie, Decker. Now, if you go in there, it's your badge. Arnold literally throws his badge at Decker.
Well, let me ask you this. Out of any film, Okay, any film, and I'm way off the reservation here. Okay, I
Okay.
have gone off the reservation. I've gone into the creek, and I am now in the water with this question. Okay,
Okay.
out of any film of all time, which character would you want to portray?
Ooh. Mm. Yeah, I have your answer.
Okay,
And this is a very old movie. It's from the 1960s. And it stars one of my all-time favorite movie stars. John Wayne in McClintock as George Washington McClintock.
never seen it.
May not be your cup of tea because it is a Western, it is an older movie, but
I saw him in The Searchers. Okay, which is
that's
great.
a good one.
I do like John, dude. I like John Wayne. I do. Um, Rooster and True Grit. I mean, come on.
Mhm.
What's the movie? He played a cop in something.
Ooh. Oh, I know it. McHugh.
Yes. No, John Wayne's good, man. I do like John. Yeah.
Well, let me give you just a little bit of synopsis on McClintock. It is a bit more. It is a western, but it's more of a comedic western. He plays a cattle tycoon, um, very wealthy, very well off, and everything. And Stephanie Powers plays his daughter, and one of his sons. I think it's which one was the one that starred most often? Um, Patrick Wayne plays. No, it was Michael. No, it was Patrick Wayne. Yeah, it was one of his sons and everything. Uh, Played a character in it as well. Um, Maureen O'Hara plays his wife, from whom he's estranged. It's a bit of a love story, kind of, but at the same time, it is very much a comedy. Um, I would consider, I would rank it up there with some of his better movies. Um, I would definitely recommend you check it out. It
Well, wait.
is.
So I haven't seen that many of his films. So his Searchers is like one of the top ones.
Yes, I would definitely consider Searchers one of his best. But McClintock, like I said, is more of a Western comedy. It
I
does
saw the
have
one I saw the one where he played the cop too.
that was McHugh. Yeah.
Yeah. So
There's another one that he did earlier on in his career that a lot of people have kind of forgotten, and justifiably so. Not because his performance was necessarily bad, but because it just wasn't the right fit for his type of acting style. He plays. I'm trying to remember. He plays Genghis Khan.
oh shit. I've heard of that. Yeah, I've heard really
Yeah,
negative.
I think it's called. I think it's called the Conqueror or
Oh,
something like
I've heard horrible shit about that one.
that. Yeah,
I'll give
not.
you a fun John Wayne story. You may have heard this one. Have you heard the story of Michael Caine when he met John Wayne?
I cannot say that I have.
Okay. All right. So Michael Caine meets John Wayne at this hotel. Michael Caine is sitting in the lobby of the hotel. John Wayne walks in, and John Wayne recognizes Michael Caine and walks over to him. And John Wayne is talking to Michael Caine, and Michael Caine is sitting there wearing suede shoes. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And John Wayne goes, "You can never wear suede shoes." Michael Caine goes, "Why is that?" And he goes, "Because you'll be sitting at the urinal." Here's what John Wayne tells Michael Caine why you can't wear suede shoes. "You'll be sitting at the urinal, and the guy will turn over to you and look, and he'll go, "Hey, are you Michael Caine?" And you'll get pee all over your shoes. He goes, "You
That's a
can't
good
go
one.
straight. You can't."
You know, John Wayne is one of those actors who almost transcended his own genre, and even outlived his legacy, and his performances have practically have outlived himself. I mean,
Absolutely.
you ask people who have any type of film knowledge who is one of the greatest Western actors of all time, they're instantaneously going to say John Wayne. I
Yeah,
mean,
well,
it's
you
kind
get
of
the
like with
image
this.
of him. It's like when you say his name, you see him wearing the cowboy hat. You do.
One of
You
my
do.
other,
And the
yeah, oh,
best
absolutely,
see him.
yeah. I mean, one of my other all-time favorite John Wayne movies. He stars opposite of Robert Mitchum and James Caan. El Dorado. Love that movie. I have seen it. I do not know how many times.
I've never seen that one either.
That's a good one.
I've
That
seen
is a
so I think
that
I've
is
only seen three John Wayne films. I saw McClintock,
dude.
I saw True Grit, and I saw Searchers.
There are so many others you're missing out on, Zach. You have no idea.
I know, but it's like, we manage our time. You know how it is. It's
Yeah,
like,
I would definitely encourage you take some, at least maybe once or twice a month. Sit down and watch one of John Wayne's other movies that you have never seen. I'll send you a list.
no, I do like them.
I
I
would.
told you I like them. I do
Oh, I know
like
you. Zach, I understand you like them, but let me give you some recommendations for some that I think you would enjoy. That's what I'm saying.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I
So,
love him and Bruce Stern together.
ooh, that's a.
Oh,
I have a hard time watching that one.
oh,
The
I
Cowboys.
I love Bruce Stern. Okay, so I've seen that one too. Okay,
Mm,
I love
I have.
Bruce Stern.
There is only two John Wayne movies I have only ever watched them like maybe once or twice. One is the Cowboys. The other one is the Shootist.
I
The
love Bruce
Cowboys is
Stern.
because, well, and hey, that's cool. I'm not knocking the Cowboys. It is one of his better films, but at the same time, it's hard for me to watch because of of how his character dies.
Yeah, it
That's the
is.
so.
Yeah,
And the other, like I said, the other one is the Shootist, because the
but
Shootist
but
was the last
hey,
movie.
hey, the Cowboys had balls though to kill him.
Yeah, that's true. The other one that's hard for me to watch is the Shootist, because it was the last movie he did before he died from cancer.
Yeah,
That was the that one I've only seen, like I said, I've only seen once or twice, but yeah, it was a great swan song for him. It was a great
Here-
performance.
here's one
Had
we have to do too, and we can
mhm,
do a double feature if you want. Okay, but
mhm.
Touch of Evil is a film you have to see.
I
So
think I've
we
heard
can
of
do
it. Who's in it?
Orson
Uh,
Welles.
That's it. Yeah, Orson Welles. Orson.
Okay,
That's right. Yeah,
so Touch
yeah.
of Evil is could be my favorite Orson Welles part. Okay, so we could do a John Wayne Orson Welles double feature. That sounds badass to me.
That
So
sounds. Yeah.
so if I pick
Okay.
Touch of Evil, which you've not seen, and you could give me a John Wayne film, okay,
What
maybe
would it
we've got
be?
a double feature.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be down for that. So, I do want to bring up Ferris's comment here real quick, even though it's something we've already touched on, but I don't want to ignore Ferris. Since it's no sequel in November, I remember how Ian McKellen's Grim Reaper is going to go back to the movie world. I had a feeling he's going to kill. I had a feeling he's going to kill people in the real world. Well, here's the thing, Ferris. He does kill at least one person in his time in the real world. If you remember, when he comes out of the movie that he was in, and like I said, it was the Seventh Seal. there's a guy that bumps into him or some other thing, and he just touches him or something, and the
Yeah.
guy starts coughing and coughing and coughing, eventually just keels over and dies.
Well, he's
So,
scary, dude. He's scary in this film. Ian McKellen is
well,
creepy as fuck. Where he shows up at the
mhm,
end, and it's like
yeah,
Arnold is injured, and
mhm,
you've got Danny protects him and draws the gun, and basically, is like, you're not going to take Arnold, and
mhm.
points a gun at him, and he's like, well, Jack is not on my list,
Nope.
but you are, and he goes,
Yeah.
I am. And he goes, you die a grandfather.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Ian McKellen is creepy in this, but he's great. He's great. The delivery is fantastic.
Well, yeah, because here's the thing. The first movie I ever saw Ian McKellen in was a adaptation of an old 1930s or 40s comic book. I know the lead actor has been in a lot of trouble lately and has kind of a bad reputation now, but it's a movie I absolutely love.
Uh-oh.
Even
Who?
um, the movie is called The Shadow. The actor is Alec
The
Baldwin.
Shadow. I've
Yeah.
never seen that.
Ian McKellen plays a nuclear scientist, like a nuclear physicist or something along those lines.
Okay.
Penelope Ann Miller is also in it. She plays the daughter of Ian McKellen's character, Reinhardt Lane. Tim Curry is also in it.
Oh man, Tim.
John, yeah, Tim Curry.
Have you done a Tim show?
Well, I did a review of The Shadow a couple of years ago.
You should do a Tim Curry's show.
I might consider it because
Oh,
he's been
he's
in
so
several.
good.
He is. I will freely admit he is. John Lone is the main villain. He plays a character by the name of Shiwan Khan, who was a descendant of Genghis Khan. Ian McKellen in this movie, his character is somewhat more of a comedic character than he is a
No,
serious one.
no, I
Yeah,
disagree. No,
yeah,
I don't agree
yeah.
with you. Nope.
Well, you've never seen it, so how can you know?
Oh, I
I'm
thought
telling
you
you
were
from my
talking
own
about
person.
in the film at hand.
No. In The Shadow, Ian
Okay.
McKellen's character is more of a comedic
Okay,
character.
gotcha.
Yeah. He's colorblind. He's a bit absent-minded, but
Oh man,
he's a very talented and a very smart nuclear physicist.
I've got a
Well, the
fucking.
early version. Go ahead.
I have got a beautiful recommendation for yourself and the rest of the team here. Ian McKellen
Okay.
recently did a film with Anthony Hopkins.
Oh,
That's
said
the two leads. It's so good.
What's the name of the movie?
Let me look it up for you. I saw it, but it's a couple years old. Let me look it up for you.
I may have heard of it because I remember seeing something that the two of them were going to do a movie. I'm like, Anthony Hopkins and Ian McKellen. How quick can I get to the theater?
Okay, I've got the name, The Dresser.
Okay.
And it's Anthony Hopkins.
Never.
So Anthony Hopkins is playing the actor in a theater play, but he's like losing it. Okay, and Ian McKellen is his fall guy. Okay, so the entire film is the relationship between Anthony and Ian. 2019. Wow. Oh, it's so fucking good.
That's definitely one. Yeah, two of my all-time favorite actors. I mean, Anthony Hopkins and Ian McKellen. Sir Anthony Hopkins, Sir Ian McKellen. You got to put the Sir ahead of their names. It's just appropriate.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, Ferris, to answer your question, I would definitely say yes. I mean, I think I watched the same documentary that you did back when I was preparing for my Batman and Batman 89 and Batman Forever double feature review. Um, Most likely, yes, they did take some inspiration from the Shadow for Batman, but a lot of the Batman was also based on a lot of Bill Finger's own ideas. And I do understand what you're saying, but at the same time, I do still hold some respect for Bob Kane. I don't agree with what he did in terms of his partner, Bill Finger, but the good
He,
thing is
the
Bill
writer,
Finger
or
is now getting the recognition, and the family is getting the
okay.
recognition and the payout that they deserve.
So
So I will
who
say that much.
wrote Batman One?
Um, I think Bill Finger did, unless
Oh,
I'm
okay.
wrong.
So Bill was the writer.
I think so. I mean, I think Bob Kane was the artist, but Bill Finger was the writer, if I understand it and everything. But I
Okay.
think at some point Bob Kane took on both parts and
Well,
everything. He was the writer and
okay.
the artist.
So here's bottom line for me is you have to give the writer due credit. Okay, it's
Yes,
like
absolutely.
you've seen some of the shit I'm doing. It's like if my guy came out and said, "No, I invented the project," that's not true.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yep.
know, I mean that's how it goes. So the guy who wrote the dialogue is
Mm-hmm.
important. That
Oh,
doesn't mean he
absolutely.
created it by himself.
No. Mm-mm.
Okay, and you've got to. Well, here's the thing: if that guy was a selfish guy, which I've heard some stories about him, maybe he was. Doesn't
Maybe what?
necessarily matter. You got to share the spotlight, I think.
Yes,
It's like
absolutely.
the guy who drew the thing is very important. He's
Yeah.
as equally important as the guy who wrote it.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it doesn't mean one is a putz and the other one is the inventor. You
Yeah.
know, it was a partnership which soured.
Yeah. I think that would be the best way to put it. But like I said, at least now I know it's several decades removed, but at least
Yes,
now Bill Finger and his family are getting the financial payout and the recognition that he deserves
absolutely, he deserves
because he
that.
was just a continuation of Batman. Hmm? Say again,
I
Zach.
think we cut out there for a minute, but he deserves recognition,
No,
no doubt
yeah,
about it.
yes, oh yes, absolutely. Well, and here's the thing: the family, granted, they didn't do any of the work, but here's the thing: unfortunately, Bill Finger's no longer alive. So it's only, I think,
Bob is still
fair.
alive.
No, I think both Bill and Bob have passed. I
Yeah,
think.
I thought that's what I thought. Yeah,
Yeah. But, here's the thing: I think the families are still due a cut because while they didn't do any of the work, the family member that they are obviously related to did. So they are due for a financial reimbursement or a financial payout for many um, films or whatever that are done based on the property that their family member did in fact create.
I would fucking think so.
So, yeah. So, um, you know, the kind of going back to Last Action Hero, the other part of this that I really enjoyed is it was a kind of a coming of age story, particularly for Danny, the character of Danny, the young kid, because just before he goes into the movie, he suffers a very traumatic event where he gets mugged essentially, and then gets left in the apartment,
Mhm.
and he is able to get loose after the robber leaves, and the guy and everything that's there to rob him even puts the switchblade on the sink and says, "Go ahead, do it, do it." And then the next scene we see is Danny is handcuffed to the toilet or whatever it is, and the guy that's there to rob him says, "All you've got is a bunch of junk." He's like, "Well, I'm sorry, it's what we can afford." And the guy ends up leaving. And in this, after this happens, it's almost as if the ticket intentionally sends Danny into the movie to teach him that bravery isn't always about being the tough guy or being the big bad action movie character or whatever the case is. It's about having courage even in the face of fear and being able to confront that fear and ultimately overcoming it. And eventually he does get that. I mean, he quite literally faces down death and is protecting not just his idol, but his best friend.
Yeah. Well, I mean, well, look, I mean, there's a trope within the film that the kid doesn't get killed. Okay,
No.
that's an action film trope.
Yeah.
At the same time. So does he have immunity? You tell me.
Their immunity we call plot armor. Just like, Jack has plot armor, his daughter has plot armor. The only people that don't have plot armor, or at least full plot armor, would be the bad guys. And that's Vivaldi, but of course, Vivaldi, played by Anthony Quinn, gets killed by his own henchman.
No, he's not the villain. That would be the one thing so far I would disagree with you. He's not the villain. He's not. From a writing point of view, he is a plot device.
Yes.
Okay.
I would agree with that.
Okay.
Benedict, played by Charles Dance, is the main villain.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, Anthony Quinn, I mean, does he have charisma within the film? Sort of.
Yes.
But the writing doesn't empower that character.
Well, and it wasn't intended to either, because here's the thing. We see especially in the opening scene, we see that this apparent villain is not the sharpest tool in the shed. He is rather very much a big dunce. He keeps using the wrong cliches, and Charles Dance's character Benedict keeps having to correct him, and he keeps getting fed up with correcting him. And when he comes back from the botched murder of the other mob family, and Vivaldi asks him, "Did it work? Did we succeed?" And Benedict goes finally, "No, it didn't succeed. It failed spectacularly, and I wanted it to." And he's like, "I am sick and tired of you," and ends up wasting him.
I mean, compared to Benedict, Quinn's character has no class, man.
No,
I mean, Benedict is fucking spectacular. Yeah. I mean, in every scene he's in, Charles Dance delivers a spectacular fucking. You could almost call him a Bond villain, man, which is kind of like the cliche that they're up to. I mean, it's like, I mean, we're all having a good time with Last Action Hero. Part of it is it's not only a spoof of Schwarzenegger films, it's a spoof of the genre. Okay, and the Benedict character is a spoof of James Bond villains.
And very much, in many ways, because here he is. He's the bad guy wearing the all white suit. I mean, he's almost a spoof of.
Well, Bond is, to me, a good comparison. Do you have a better one?
Oh, yes, absolutely. 100%, I would agree, yeah.
Okay.
The fact that they dress him in all white is kind of a callback to the movie The Untouchables with Kevin Costner and Sean Connery.
Oh. That's so good. Have you reviewed that?
No, but here's the thing.
That's a good one.
Here's the thing. I'm planning on doing it, but I'm going to do it as a double feature because there's another gangster movie that I was going to review for this series, but I'm going to hold off on it. And I'm
Of
going to
course
do a double
not.
feature of the Untouchables and Hoodlum.
I've never heard of Hoodlum.
I'll send you a clip. I'll send you a rundown of the cast and everything. You might be
Okay,
kind of surprised
well,
who's
I
in it.
must extract from you, Ambassador, a film of myself, of my own.
Okay.
So,
Let me bring up Ferris's comment here real quick. Yeah, and we kind of already touched upon this. My favorite gag in the movie world, where Danny and Arnold are in the Blockbuster store and they see a poster of Sylvester Stallone as Terminator. Ironically, he was considered for the part back then. Now that part I did not know, Ferris. So thank you.
okay, well, do you know who the original guy was?
For the Terminator,
Yes.
honestly, no, I don't.
Okay. The original Terminator, I'm not kidding, was O.J. Simpson. I'm not joking.
Wouldn't have worked. Wouldn't have worked.
Listen, I'm not kidding around.
No,
Cameron
that would
came
not
in.
have even
Okay,
remotely worked.
Cameron came in. The producer said, "Okay, I've got the characters. O.J. Simpson is Terminator."
It would not have worked.
That's
I'm
what happened.
sorry. No, it has nothing to do with his race. Obviously, it has to do
Well,
with his
maybe the
acting
fucking
ability.
killing. Maybe killing his fucking wife. Maybe that's a part of it.
I don't know. Well, here's the thing. That wasn't even an issue. Obviously, back in
It is
the
now.
yeah, obviously, yes.
Fuck
But yeah,
him.
no,
Now,
there
fuck
is no
OJ.
way.
So don't worry about it. You can light
Yeah.
him up. I mean, who cares? O.J. Simpson, piece of shit, murderer. Okay, but yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, he was
Hey,
initially considered for the part.
oh dear heavens, man! Am I glad we messed up? We dodged a bullet on that one,
We
metaphorically
did.
speaking.
We did. And they wanted Arnold to originally play somebody else. But
Mm,
Arnold sat down with Jim Cameron, and
mhm.
Arnold understood Terminator. So
Yeah,
if any of you guys watching, go and take a look at Arnold talking about the film. He goes, "No, I sat down with Jim Cameron, director, obviously by now very famous director, but at
yes.
the time had not done that much. Did he do
Mm,
Aliens before this, or was it
no,
after this?"
no. It was the timeline goes, if I remember correctly, Terminator, Aliens,
Okay,
Abyss, Terminator 2, Judgment Day, and then on from there.
okay,
Because
so
let's see, True Lies was before Titanic, and then Avatar was after the first Avatar was after Titanic.
okay, so Arnold's sat down with Jim, who at that time was not a well-known guy. And in fact, if you guys go
Not
back and
even
look even
remotely.
deeper into it, Jim Cameron was a truck driver
Mm-hmm.
at the time. I mean,
Yep.
that's where he
Yep.
came from. Jim Cameron was a truck driver and became one of the most well-known film directors of all time. So if that's not, a great story to latch onto, I don't know what is. So
Yeah.
Jim Cameron, fucking, I mean, Renaissance man, came from zero.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
And look at him now. Here's the thing.
but
Even
wait,
though
but wait.
I,
So
Mhm.
Schwarzenegger sat down with Jim, and Schwarzenegger was explaining to Jim the
Zach, you
part.
cut out.
Hello,
Zach,
can
if
you
you
hear
can hear
me?
me, you've cut out, bud.
I can
Check
hear
your
you.
mic.
Hello,
No, I can't hear. Oh, wait a minute. Zach?
can you hear me?
Yeah, it was actually on my end, not yours. Sorry. Okay.
Okay.
You were saying.
So Jim sits down with Arnold. Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
All right.
Yep.
All right. So Jim and Arnold sit down together, and Arnold is explaining to Jim. It's like, I don't care what part you put me in, but I'm telling you, the Terminator character should act like a robot. When he draws his gun,
Mhm.
he shouldn't be looking at the ammo. He should be doing this and that. He already knows where the ammo goes. He's a robot. Okay. And
Mhm.
he's sitting there talking with Jim over lunch, explaining the part of the Terminator. And that's how he got the part. Is Jim saw him
Don't surprise me.
basically express an understanding of the part and said,
Mhm.
that's my guy.
Yeah.
But he was initially, I think Ferris is correct, as he goes, he was considered for Kyle Reese or some other part. But when Jim and
Mhm.
Arnold had dinner or lunch, Jim said, "Okay, this has got to be the Terminator."
Yeah. Well, and you look at the trajectory of Arnold Schwarzenegger's career, starting off in the early '80s or even the mid '80s. I mean, he went from doing
Conan,
Conan
yep,
to the Terminator, then back to Conan again, and then
yeah,
Terminator.
and don't forget what was the Jim film he did?
Oh, Pumping Iron,
Lifting Iron. Is that what it's
Pumping
called?
Iron, Pumping Iron.
Pumping Iron. That
Yeah,
was instrumental.
it was. I will say one of his early comedic roles that he did, and of course, we already referenced his co-star for that movie was, of course, Twins. That was, I think, his very first outing, seeing if he could work as if he had the chops to do comedy. And I have to admit, for his first time going around doing a comedy or more comedic role, working off of Danny
Well,
DeVito, it was good. It
dude,
was.
Danny's one of the greatest ever.
Oh yeah.
He is.
I mean,
No, he is. I mean, I would say one of the greatest of all fucking time. I mean, Dan.
oh
All
yeah.
right,
I would
give me 2 seconds. I'll be right back. Okay.
okay. All right. Kind of going off of something that talking about Danny DeVito. Um, one movie that he did, and he was actually, I think, the director or the producer on, and he had a role. He had an on-screen role, and he starred a very young actress by the name of Mara Wilson. Y'all probably know the movie I'm going to mention. It's called Matilda. He plays a very skeezy, slimy, very dishonest used car salesman, and his character is so reprehensibly bad that the daughter, Mara Wilson's character, she develops telekinetic abilities, though they don't necessarily come out and say it's telekinesis, but we can figure out that that's exactly what it is. But Danny DeVito's part in that movie, he plays somewhat of a similar role in um, Twins, but by the end of the movie, or at least partway through the movie, his character starts to evolve and change and um, actually turns into a decent guy. And the chemistry between Arnold and Danny DeVito was, I think, very genuine. They had a really good um, rapport with each other. Granted, I think this was the first time they had ever worked with each other, but at the same time, granted, we all knew where Arnold Schwarzenegger, what his main focus was for his career was, and that was action. But he wanted to see if he could stretch his legs a little bit and do something a little more lighthearted. And granted, there are some mild action sequences in Twins. It's not a action movie. It is a comedy more so than anything else. And I think one of my favorite moments in the movie is when I think it's one of the loan sharks or their goons or whatever comes after Danny DeVito's character. And there's this part where, Schwarzenegger's character is trying. He's like, you've moved too soon. You've made a blunder. And they're like, he's talking like that again. What the hell do we do? And they're like, go after him. And Schwarzenegger's character ends up kicking their asses. Getting back into Last Action Hero, and I have to admit the callbacks to some of his catchphrases, and yeah, I do as well. There was one other movie I think she did, Ferris, called The Wish or something to that effect. But aside from that, she kind of got out of acting and everything. Once she got into her adolescent years, she kind of outgrew the cute little girl roles that she could do, and she just didn't want to. As far as I understand it, she didn't want to. She didn't want to be. She didn't want to act anymore. And you know what? That was her. That was her choice. And everything. So can't necessarily disrespect it. But I will say this for Mara Wilson: she was one of the better young actresses of the early and mid '90s. So, and the roles that you listed, yeah, she was good in all of those. So, especially in the look on her face when the mask comes off of Robin Williams and everything, the Mrs. Doubtfire mask, and she's like, "Daddy," and he's like, "Yeah, honey, it's me." I will always love Mrs. Doubtfire. I mean, I'll say this very briefly. Robin Williams has and always will be one of my all-time favorite actors, whether it was comedic or dramatic.
Yeah,
He was
well,
a great talent.
his death is still painful to me. You
Yes,
know,
yeah, I would agree to a degree. It is for me as well. I mean, I did a review of The Birdcage and Mrs. Doubtfire back when I first started my channel because I love those movies so much. Robin Williams was always one of those actors that he could reach me as a comedian, but he could also at the same time. I have seen several of the clips from Good Will Hunting. I eventually am going to
oh
get a
yeah,
copy of Good Will Hunting. I know I will love that movie, not because of just
I don't
Robin.
like it. Okay, number one, I'm not a Good Will Hunting guy. Have you
Fair
seen
enough.
Have you seen him in Insomnia?
Yes, I have, and I loved him Insomnia of him off acting off of Al Pacino. That was
Oh my
that
God,
not one of my all time favorite movies of his, but a damn good movie of his. So
have you seen 1 Hour Photo?
that one I have not seen, but I have heard a
Oh my
lot of
God,
good. I have heard a lot of good things about it, so I may eventually um, get around to watching that one as well. I mean, there are movies out there that obviously I have not seen that I know of and I know are good. It's just a matter of one, getting my hands on it, and two, making the time to sit down and watch it. I mean, it was like with Last Action Hero. Once you sent me that clip, Zach, I'm like, I got to find this movie sooner rather than later, and it was just by coincidence and everything. Last time we went to the movie store, it was sitting on a shelf, and it was like, "Hi, look at me! I'm here! I'm here! You were looking for me! I'm here!" I'm like, "Come here!" I mean,
well, let me
I
ask
could
you.
make a
Sure. So, according to your expectations, how did it do?
with Last Action Hero.
Yeah.
I wasn't exactly sure what to expect. Granted, based on the clip that you sent me, um, get to your question in just a minute, Ferris. Based on the clip that you sent me, I knew this was going to be something that I would key to, that I would enjoy, but I didn't know to how much of an extent I would enjoy. I will say really had a good time with this movie. I mean, it started off for me, anyways, a little rough,
Okay.
and no, but about after the first 5 to 10 minutes, and the movie started to pick up, I started
Well,
to
I mean,
understand.
listen, how do you start an Arnold film? I mean,
That's
look,
true.
look, if
That's
you and I
true.
got together and we said, how do we start? I mean, it's not easy.
That's very true. But here's the thing: the action sequences with Arnold were not the issue. It was the kid that was the issue. And I'm not saying that as a bad thing. The actor who played the part was not by any means bad. It was just it's kind of hard to pin down the exact issue, but it started off a bit rough for me. I didn't dislike it. And I think maybe on a second watch, the roughness might even out more for me. But about, like I said, 10 to 15 minutes in, I was like, oh yeah, I'm all in on this. I love this. I'm really enjoying this. I mean, Charles Dance as Benedict, Schwarzenegger as Jack Slater, the kid, Danny. I mean, Robert Prosky as the projectionist or the theater owner. I really liked him. I was like, wait a minute, I know you. You're from Mrs. Doubtfire. You know, it was all just kind of okay. I know this actor or this actress from this or that. And as I said, the mom, hubba hubba.
There you go. So let me get a score.
Honestly, Zach,
Let me get a score out of you. Out of 10.
out of 10, and this is just off my first initial watch, it might go up with another. I would give this a 7.5 or an 8 out of 10.
Well,
Now, like
you
I
gotta
said,
pick one. There's no such thing in
okay,
scoring as an or.
okay. I will give this a very high 7.5, or at least a 7.95. It's that good. But like I said,
Okay.
it might go up with an additional viewing or viewings. Because like I said, this will not be the last time I ever watch this movie.
Good. Me neither. So,
So
so in comparison, what is like, just to give your audience an example, what would be like the Rise of Skywalker? What out of 10 is that?
The Rise of Skywalker is a 0.
No, you can't give a 0.
That's my okay. Fine, it's a 1. It's not a
No,
one. It's not a 1.5.
I
It's not a
think
one.
there's a little bias going on. Look, for me, Rise of Skywalker.
You're damn right. There's bias. It's a piece of garbage.
Okay, okay. What if I gave the Rise of Skywalker a 3.7?
You're being generous.
You think? Am I?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Look,
But
let's be.
Last Action Hero for me, dude, is like an 8.5 because it's so fun. It's such a good time.
Yeah.
Is there? Let me just ask you this: is there 1 minute in the film where the plot line kind of waned for you and you were bored, disinterested, or because for me it's
No.
a 2 something, whatever the runtime is, hour ride of you're having fun,
No.
and like we talked about, we've got depth, we've got comedy, we've got action, we've got self-awareness. It's, to me, it's a real joy of a fucking film. And by the way, I'm glad you enjoy it. I'm glad you reviewed it. It's been a long time favorite of mine, and it's really an honor to have an opportunity to even share my thoughts about it. That's how much I love it. I mean, because to me, I mean, if I had a Hall of Fame, this film is in my Hall of Fame as a great action film, as a great comedy, as a great whatever you want to say.
The thing is, Zach, I have always come to expect from you the more unconventional, and that's one of the things I like about your preferences. You go for the unconventional, whereas I do go for the unconventional, but I also go for the conventional. And this movie very much falls into the realm of the unconventional. Yes, it's an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. Yes, it is a action film, but it has a twist to it. It to use a phrase that a director I have no particular respect for. It subverts your expectations, but in all the best possible ways.
Yeah. Fucking Ryan Johnson. That
Yeah,
guy's a fucking look. I mean, we could sit on here and we could do 3.5 hours on Ryan. I'm sure we could. That guy's a fucking loser, isn't he? Um, that being said,
Will.
no, he is. I think he is. But
Yeah,
it's
no, no, no. Zach, you will not get one iota of pushback from me. We could do an absolute Zach, we could do an absolute roasting of Ryan Johnson. I'm sure I would probably gain some subscribers, but here's the thing. I would only do that once. I would only do
we
it
could. I think we'd have
once.
fun.
For the
Probably.
simple fact is, oh yeah, we'd probably have a laugh and a half. I probably send out the link to a few other friends who would probably have a few choice words for Mr. Johnson and a few other people as well, but we'd keep it focused on Johnson. I'll bring up your comment here, Ferris. To answer your one question, Ferris, no, I never, it wasn't particularly on my radar at the time when Good Will Hunting came out in theaters, so I've never seen it in theaters.
I can
But
talk. I can talk about it. Have you seen it?
I've never seen it. I've only seen, like I said, the few clips of Robin Williams' character talking to Will and a few others here and there, but I've never seen the movie all the way through.
Okay.
So,
All right.
but
Well,
I will
please,
bring up your hmm.
please continue.
Okay. Ferris says I would definitely give Last Action Hero an attempt. It was directed by the same guy who did Predator, John McTiernan. Yep. Die Hard 1 and 3, Hunt for Red October, and the Thomas Crown Affair. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Ferris, because I didn't want to necessarily forget who did direct this, because this is not the first time Arnold Schwarzenegger and John McTiernan worked together, because Arnie was in Predator. I just recently rewatched that the other night on 4K. I got fortunate. Uh, they re-released Predator on 4K, and oh my gosh, is it? Mm,
You're
there's
one
fewer
ugly
things.
motherfucker.
Yep, one of the greatest callback lines of all time.
So let me
And
talk about Good Will Hunting.
sure,
I don't like it. Okay, I think it's Oscar
fair
bait.
enough.
I think it's goofy. I'm not a fan. I think there's some good sequences. You've got Stellan Skarsgård playing the professor, but
Yes.
at the end of the day, okay, it's Oscar bait, and I think Matt Damon and Ben Affleck are posers. And I don't attribute any degree of talent to either actor. I think they're dorks, and frankly, I'm embarrassed that they are as big a stars as they are today.
And you know what? That's a fair criticism. I mean, I'm not like a huge fan of them. There are movies they have done that I have enjoyed, but they were more in a supporting role rather than a lead role. I mean, I plan on doing reviews of three of the movies that Matt Damon, in particular, was a co-star in. And everything. I'm going to probably do those next
Yeah.
year.
Which films?
And the Ocean's films,
Oh,
the ones
hate.
I hate those.
Yeah, I do,
Fair enough.
because I mean those are goofy ass Hollywood. Let's get 25 different named actors and we'll make $1 billion.
Yeah.
Shut the
And
fuck up. That's what I would say to the guy who proposed that. It's like, yeah, well, it's like,
you know what?
here's our idea. It's like, well, who do you have? We've got George Clooney. We've got fucking Brad Pitt. We've got everybody. I mean, it's like, come on now. What is the storyline? I mean, how many times can they break into a fucking casino?
That's true. But you know, I will not. Here's the thing. I get your criticism. I can't say it's necessarily unfair, but at the same time, there are some good aspects to all three films because here's the thing. All three films has an interesting and an interesting antagonist, even though the people that we're rooting for, they're all crooks. But between Andy Garcia, I can't remember the name of the villain from the villain from Ocean's 12, but then you've also got Al Pacino as the villain in Ocean's 13. That for me was kind of the draw, not just so much the lead cast. Huh?
But it puts it in the same category, something like Expendables, where it's clearly a B movie. You know, despite the budget, who cares? It's a B movie.
Well, here's the thing. The original Ocean's 11 was a B movie who starred Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Sammy Davis, the rest of the Rat Pack from back in the day. They did that in between their sets at the different casinos that they were performing at the time.
I've never seen a Dean Martin film.
He very rarely ever acted. The only movie I know of besides Ocean 11 that he ever acted in was Rio Bravo with John Wayne and Ricky Nelson.
But is he good?
To be perfectly honest with you, Zach, I've never seen that movie all the way through. I've only seen clips of it. So, and the clips I saw predominantly involved John Wayne. So I can't say definitively if it was good or bad, but you know what? A lot of people regard Rio Bravo as one of John Wayne's better movies. So I can't say it's entirely bad. I can't say if Dean Martin's performance was either good or bad, but John Wayne on his own can carry just about any film and make it entertaining for you. So that's what I would say about that movie. I mean, let's be honest here with Last Action Hero.
Okay.
Schwarzenegger and Charles Dance carry this movie in every conceivable way.
Yes.
Because let's get down to brass tacks here. The kid who plays Danny is somewhat forgettable.
Oh.
I'm not saying he's a bad actor or even a bad character, but while he is supposed to be the main focus of the film.
Well, that statement to me is reminiscent. So you saying that to me, okay, is like in Crimson Tide when we review that tomorrow, the Aracuda showing up on the radar. Okay, it's concerning.
You mean the Akula?
Yes.
Like I said, the kid is not a bad actor.
Oh.
He's not.
Come on. I mean, he was fine, man.
He was. But let's be honest here. Who did you go to this when you went to this movie? Who'd you go to see? The kid or Schwarzenegger? Be honest.
Neither. Yeah, I went to see Charles.
Okay, you went to see Charles Dance. Fair enough. I can respect that. So you either went to see Charles Dance or you went to see Schwarzenegger. The kid was, as he said, I'm the comedy relief. He is seemingly...
Well, he's kind of the point of view character, which in a way makes him the lead, which is interesting.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, and that's true too. But
so the POV character, I mean, does that necessarily have to be the lead Maybe not. I mean, I think you could
No.
arguably easily say Schwarzenegger is the main character, but the
Oh yeah.
POV character is important too, because they bring us
Well,
into
okay.
the
Yeah.
world. You know.
Yeah. Well, okay. I'll give you a good POV character that turns out to be almost seemingly a secondary or supporting character or the second lead role.
Mhm.
Edward Norton in Fight Club.
Hmm. I disagree. I think that's the main character.
He is, in a way, the main character, but at the same time, he's the main character and he's also the narrator of his own story. But at the same time, he is not only just the POV character in the
Okay,
leading role, he is
I think
also a member of the supporting cast in his alternate persona.
I think I have a better comparison.
Okay.
Morgan Freeman in Shawshank.
Yeah.
Okay, where Morgan Freeman is literally narrating. He is the voice of the film.
Yes.
And yet that guy, I mean, the film is the star, you could say, is Andy Dufresne. I don't think there's any doubt
No.
about that.
No, definitely not. I would definitely wholeheartedly agree with that.
God damn. Have you reviewed Shawshank?
I have never. You're gonna be flabbergasted. I've never seen it all the way through.
Oh no.
Think,
Shawshank.
I've seen the scene. I've seen
Shawshank.
some of the more important scenes. I've seen the part where Andy escapes from the prison. I've seen the part where the police show up to the prison, start arresting everybody. I've seen the part where the warden shoots himself. That was that guy. I can't remember the name of the actor off the top of my head, but he was really good in Shawshank. I will not lie. Of course, you got Clancy Brown as one of the prison guards. He was great. I mean, Clancy Brown. There's an actor. Exceedingly so. I mean, his very first one of his very first roles out of the chute, he plays one of the most iconic movie villains from the 1980s, the Kurgan in Highlander, opposite Christopher Lambert and Sean Connery.
Mark Hamill in that?
Highlander? No.
Yeah.
No, that's Christopher Lambert and Sean Connery and no, for heaven's sakes. I can't remember the name of the Roxanne Hart.
Okay.
Plays the love interest. I actually a couple of years ago I picked up a copy of the director's edition of Highlander.
Well, here's one of the reasons I love your channel. I mean, it's all about films, and you know, film people always have a great time on here. So, guys, I mean, basically an open panel, right? It is. I mean, pretty much.
Usually, yes.
Mm-hmm. So, guys, I may join. You know, you can talk about whatever films you want to talk about. And I think you have films where people come on and sell you the movie too, don't you? You have streams like that.
Well, you sold me on this movie.
Okay, so all right. So Shawshank is a beautiful fucking movie.
What? Yeah.
God. Okay, so director Frank Darabont.
Yep, I know who directed it. I know Frank Darabont very well.
One of the greatest auteurs we've ever had. Okay, retired, but his 10 or so movies are so ingrained in the pop culture. The Mist, The Majestic. Okay.
Never seen that one, but I've heard a lot of good things about it.
Oh, it's really good. One of the great Jim Carrey films. Invented the Walking Dead TV show. Okay, back when it was good, before it was a piece of shit, and they kicked him out after season 2. Okay, Frank Darabont invented the Walking Dead. Shawshank, obviously, the dude's a fucking spectacular guy. Okay, so you got Morgan Freeman, you've got Bob Gunton.
That's the name of the warden. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, Bob Gunton.
Oh, dude, Bob Gunton.
Yep.
Oh, shit. Bill Sattler, who we've mentioned within this very stream.
Yep.
plays one of the friends, one of the
Yep.
fellow prisoners. Okay. Oh my
Mhm.
God. Really good. So that's got to be on the list for sure.
Oh yeah. Like I said, it's just a matter of me getting my hands on it and making the time to sit down and watch it. But I know very well about Shawshank. Um, it's at the time that it came out, it wasn't on my radar because it wasn't particularly the type of movie I would have gone to see. That's not to say it is by any means a bad movie because it isn't. Obviously, it isn't because it has very much grown a cult following over the last 20 some odd years since it came out in the 1990s. It just didn't strike me at the time as the type of movie I would particularly want to watch. It's the same deal with this movie tonight, Last Action Hero. At the time that it came out, it just didn't strike me as the type of film I would want to watch. Obviously, my times have changed. I've met new people like yourself, Zach, and people introduce me to movies or recommend movies to me. They send me clips, whatever the case may be, and I'll take a look and I'll be like, yeah, I'll check this out. Or like, this really isn't my thing, but I appreciate it. Last Action Hero was like, yeah, this is like the thumbnail said. Why did I skip this? I mean, I am a action movie junkie. Even in my 40s, I still love a great action movie. This that feeds that particular part of my personality.
Mine too. Well, look, I mean, it's about having a good time. Okay. And a lot of these
Yeah,
films forget that. That's what a movie is. We're supposed to have fun. That's really the
yeah,
point. Okay. And people don't, I mean, how can you make an action film and have it be all about politics?
yeah.
How can you do that? That to me is not only an embarrassment, it is fucking heresy. How dare you take
I agree.
this kind of a genre and make it about fucking politics? Heresy. That's what it is. And that's the kind of shit we got to deal with now as film goers. We've got to fucking avoid landmines.
Yeah.
But
Zach,
see,
I can't.
stuff like the Tony Scott stuff, it's fun.
Yes.
But
Well,
are they making films that are fun today?
Very sparingly.
Yeah.
I will say this, Grant. I haven't had a chance to get to the movies as much as I wanted to this year. The one time I did go to the movies was with a buddy from college and one of his friends, and we went to see Across the Spider Verse. I had seen the first one on Blu-ray. I was absolutely blown away. I loved the story, the animation style, the whole narrative sucked me in, and I'm like, I love this movie. Cannot wait to see if there's a sequel. Obviously, there was. It kind of feeds into the formula that you mentioned earlier. They did one off, and I think they pretty much intended to be somewhat of a one off. But it did so well, and the response from the fan base was so powerful. They were like, okay, we have incentive. We know that there is an audience for this. We want to tell a further story, and they went out and they did it. And Across the Spider Verse was a fun, engaging, emotionally um, enrapturing, and a very, at times, comedic film. But it was, as you described it, a good time.
Is that
Now, that's
so
not to say
hard
that all
for them to understand? Like the
Zach,
executives, are they so stupid that they don't get that? Which again, I mean, Last Action Hero, a great representation of a dead type of film. You know, we don't see
yeah,
films like Last Action Hero. We don't see one-offs anymore at all, sparingly. And if we see them, they're on Netflix or Hulu or Amazon. Okay, and they're lacking a proper budget. They look like a TV show. Where back you could go 15 years ago, 20 years ago, some of your top films out there, Rain Man was #1 at the box office. Imagine that. You could never see a film like that today. You couldn't. Being #1,
it would be next to impossible. Here's
done.
No. Here's the thing. I consider the 80s and the 90s and even into like the early 2000s the last real gasp of creativity and chance making and chance taking by Hollywood, by the big studios. Now, here's the thing. Last Action Hero was not put out by a major studio. If I remember correctly, it was put out by Columbia Pictures before they got bought out by TriStar, or they bought out TriStar Pictures themselves. And it is sad to see that these studios have become so risk averse. And we've discussed this numerous times on here and everything in the course of many reviews, or it has been the focus of a stream or a video that I have done. For whatever reason, we know part of the reason why. We know part of the reason why Hollywood has become so risk averse. They're more worried about catering to a particular market or a particular demographic than trying to do movies that will appeal, not cater, not kowtow, but appeal to everyone.
Well,
Last Action Hero is a movie that, let's be honest here, and I'm not saying this as divisive or derisive or anything. You and me, Zach, we have different sensibilities when it comes to the movies that you and I watch. Where there are times where they do parallel or they do mesh.
Yes.
And that's not a damn thing wrong with that. Last Action Hero is a movie I did not suspect you would enjoy. When you sent me that clip back a few weeks ago, I was like, did Zach get hacked? And I was like, I'm serious.
Well, okay, let me explain myself here slightly.
Sure.
Okay?
Yeah, sure.
I am a little bit of a snob when it comes to films, but a little bit. Okay, I would love for somebody to come in and shatter my glass house and introduce me to new and exciting shit, which is why I champion directors like Denis Villeneuve. I've seen almost all of his films. Enemy. Okay, people haven't seen that. Prisoners, nobody's seen that. Mm-hmm. But great directors, great scripts, great stories that are well done, well directed, well written, and well produced. I can't help myself. So I would say in that way, I am sort of unbiased, man. It's like I like anything of high quality. I think I've said that on here.
Oh, yes.
Like anything that's good, I can appreciate. I can appreciate even me, even somebody with a heart like mine. Okay, I can get behind and appreciate a great romantic comedy if it's well done. But that's really the point. How well done is it? Okay, and the films we're going to talk about tomorrow, they are antiquated. There's no doubt about it. They are antiquated films. They look like they were shot in the 90s, and they were. But there's something to them that's very appealing.
Oh, yeah.
So
I mean, those are two movies. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, that's kind of the point. It's like Last Action Hero is a great film. Okay. And I don't know if it was back in the 90s. I mean, 1993. You tell me. I don't know. It got crushed, but looking on it with the view of from today, I mean, to me, it's really a spectacular accomplishment for all the reasons we've talked about.
Well, here's the thing. This movie is, We're in 2023. It came out in 1993. This movie is 20 years old now. I mean, depending on what month it came out in 93, I'm not exactly sure. But this movie's 20 years old. And most people would probably, most YouTubers or whoever would probably not cover this movie. But at the recommendation of a person that I regard as a friend and a person who I very much respect their opinion when it comes to films,
Likewise.
I was like, you know what? This is right up. I watched this. I dug it. I was into it. Like I said, it took me about 10, 15 minutes to really get into it, to kind of acclimate to what I
Yes.
was watching. But once I got into it, I was
But
invested. I was all in. Yeah.
it's worth us talking about it.
Yes,
How,
I agree.
which says everything. That tells
Yeah.
you all you need to know. I mean, if we're willing to talk about a film 20 years later, that's
Mhm.
all you need to know about it. And again, it's a forgotten classic. People don't recognize the film as being of high quality. To me, it's Arnold's best film. I
I
love
definitely say
him
it's a
in the
movie.
film.
Mhm.
I love Charles Dance in the film. You've got a great supporting cast. You've got, in my opinion, the greatest depiction of death on screen,
Yes.
period, with Ian.
Yes. Yeah.
What's not to like? So 20 years later, here we are talking about it. That means that the film did its fucking job. Despite what the critics thought, despite what the public thought, here it is 20 years later, and here we are talking about it.
Yeah. The other thing about this movie is, give it another 10 years, this movie will become regarded as a cult classic if it isn't already. If it is not a cult classic now, give it another 5 to 10 years. I bet you folding money. It will be. People will come back to it and they'll be like, you know what? There was something to this film that we didn't give it enough recognition at the time, but we're going to do so now.
Can I
Yes,
address some of Ferris's comments?
absolutely, of course.
All right, put this one up, second to last one. And
Oh, okay.
Ferris knows I like him, man. Ferris and I got no problems, no beef.
No.
Uh, yeah, I respect him. He's got his own channel, and I appreciate that. But listen, man, Ferris, I mean, you and I would agree on a lot. I'm sure we disagree on a lot too. But I am not a Ben Affleck. I'm not a Matt Damon fan. I mean, every time I see these guys, here's where it falls apart. Is I don't see the differentiation between Matt Damon playing a character and Matt Damon giving an interview. That's a problem for me. I still see Matt Damon. Same goes for Ben Affleck. Ben Affleck playing Batman to me is Ben Affleck playing Batman. Okay, which is not good. That's not a good thing. Okay, I see these guys go in and play characters, but I still see them where they're looking at the camera like, "Oh, look at me! I'm doing a great job. I'm Ben Affleck." There's a problem there. Where it's like you see a guy like Daniel Day-Lewis or Gary Oldman, they go in, they lose their own identity, and you watch their characters and you say, that's a character. That's not Gary Oldman playing Winston Churchill. That's not Gary Oldman playing the pimp in True Romance. No, that's its own thing. That's Drexel in True Romance. So anyway, that would be my thing with those two. Is I see them, dude. I see them. I mean, they won their first Oscar when they were 20. That's the worst thing that could happen to anybody. That's a curse.
Well, you bring up Gary Oldman. I mentioned a movie of his when we were asking the question, "What's one movie that we feel we could go into and potentially survive?" And I said, "The Fifth Element."
Mm-hmm.
Gary Oldman plays the main villain, or at least the main on-screen villain of that movie, and he plays a character by the name of Zorg. His character.
Yes.
Now, here's the thing: His character's full name is Jean-Baptiste Emmanuel Zorg.
I could
He is,
vomit hearing that.
oh, dude, it's one of the greatest names and one of the greatest introductions.
I hate The Fifth Element.
I love it. I absolutely. This is where we kind of dovetail. We go in opposite directions, and that's okay. I love this movie to death. I mean, Ian Holm, Bruce Willis, Gary
Of Ian
Oldman,
Holm.
Mila Jovovich, Chris Rock.
Well, I'm not saying Gary Oldman's a piece of shit. Obviously, I regard him.
No, I know.
A lot of
I
these
know.
guys as some of the greatest ever. But that film for me is just a nightmare. I mean, who's the guy in purple?
The
black guy.
Blue.
Yeah. Oh God. Who's the guy who plays that?
That wasn't a. That wasn't. That wasn't a dude. That was a woman.
No. No, the black guy.
You talking about Chris Rock's character, Ruby Rod?
Who's like the announcer guy?
Yeah, that's Chris Rock, or not Chris Rock? Chris Tucker. Chris Tucker. Sorry, I meant to say Chris Tucker.
Yeah, I mean, I find that as equally as. I was searching for a word worse than embarrassing, but I find that character
absurd.
Equally, no, even I could go worse. I'm detrimental. You know, horrific.
Yeah, no, I get you.
As Gary Oldman's writing, I hate his writing. Okay, so there's characters in that movie I can't stand.
And you know what? Like I said, everybody's gonna have a different preference, a different taste. It just so happens on this movie, Last Action Hero, we both agree. So
absolutely, yeah.
This is what a good action movie was meant to be. This is what a good comedic action movie is meant to be. It's meant to be a good time. You go in, you watch the movie, you come out. You know what? I'm glad I paid the money to go see that. And if ever came anything going back into like a 1990s mentality, when the sucker comes out on VHS, or if it later on down the road DVD,
yeah,
I'm going to get it.
Well, here's what happened is you hadn't seen it. Okay, 20 years later, you see it. Mm-hmm. And we both agree that the thing was a fucking passed over masterpiece of a film. Is that fair to say? Would you call it kind of a masterpiece in what it was? Because to me, it's unique. It does its own thing. Anyway,
it is not in the purest form of a masterpiece, but in the niche of the genre that it exists in, yes, it is to that degree a masterpiece, very much so. Because it has a novel and intriguing concept. The execution of that concept is well done. The acting is on point. The action set pieces are well put together and very well executed. I will have to say and we kind of touched upon this, but we didn't really go any deeper into it. My favorite action set piece or anything, as I mentioned before, is the part where Slater is at the mobster's funeral and he has figured out that the guy has been rigged or stuffed with nerve gas, and that to trigger the timer to the bomb that's going to release the nerve gas, Charles Dance's character goes up and pulls his finger.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I could not help but chuckle.
It's one of those things. It's like I think I told you recently I was playing 007. The game.
GoldenEye. Golden. Yeah.
So it's like I appreciate old school shit. I mean, you don't see stuff like that seen in modern cinema, and you probably never will again.
No. because they will think that that is too lowbrow of a type of comedy for them to do such a thing.
They got to make them both black and lesbians.
I get that reference.
That's how it goes. Am I crazy, or is that how it goes?
No, because I don't know if you realize this, you're referencing the latest South Park episode called Into the Panderverse.
Yes, I saw it.
Okay, then yes,
That's how
I
it
get
goes.
that.
I mean, Hollywood is never going to give us the kind of straight up action shit that we used to get. They're over it, even though you could make billions. Billions. I mean, it's not like the model itself is antiquated. What's antiquated is the opinions of the executives. Take a look at Fast and the Furious, which still makes tens of billions of dollars. Take a look at these other action properties like John Wick, which still make tens, hundreds of millions. Okay, so that's really the point, is they are afraid to do it because they're not interested in telling good stories. They're interested in fucking around and trying to further a political agenda.
Yeah. Oh, Zach, I can't say I disagree with you. You know, I've made this statement, or I've used this phrase when I start a statement. I remember a time before X. I remember a time when movies were meant to entertain,
Yes.
not to, and to varying degrees inform or educate or enlighten. Movies nowadays do not fall necessarily into any one of those categories. They fall into a category that should not be hoisted upon the public. We are here to preach to you about how X, Y, or Z or you are bad. No one wants to go to a movie and hear how they might be perceived as a bad person. They want to go to a movie to escape all the crap that is going on in their own lives or just out in the world in general. That was for decades on end the main goal and the main raison d'etre for every single major movie studio in Hollywood or in the entertainment industry in general. Somewhere along the way, and I can probably, if I wanted to, do the dig and then pinpoint exactly when things started to go up Shit's Creek,
About 2015, just about.
roughly.
Yeah, yes.
But everything started to go, well, we need to start putting these narratives in, telling how people are bad or how they think or feel is bad or blah, 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 or yada, 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 or gender or politics or identity or whatever the hell else they want to shove into a damn movie. A movie is not meant to annoy the audience or make them feel seemingly guilty for something that they
No.
have no control over.
Here's the fucking problem. Neither is anything else. Any politician on the left has fucked up because they have forgot the core tenets of what the left wing is all about. The left wing has always been about higher wages for workers, being pro-union. The fuck up is integrating these woke fucking losers into the coalition, and they have totally lost the plot. They fucked up. And by the way, we're seeing a worldwide rejection of leftism. Take a look at the recent election in Argentina. Take a look at Justin Trudeau's poll numbers. Take a look at Joe Biden. They have fucked themselves so bad that they have invited a new era of right-wingism to take hold, and that's what's going on.
Yeah. Look, I don't necessarily... here's the thing. And this is one of the few times I will ever make any type of political or social statement. I try to keep... And I don't care that you bring it up. It's fine. Because it does pertain in part to what we've been discussing. Because it does pertain to the entertainment sector of the American public.
It does.
I do not necessarily identify as left or right wing. I consider myself more moderate or uh, right, center leaning right, more so than anything else.
I'd call
I
myself
see the benefits.
a independent.
I would kind of identify with myself that same way too, on varying degrees.
Okay.
I can see the benefits of both types of thinking so long as it does not go too far extreme on both sides, right and left wing. But I do see the issues that do go into going too far to either side of the political and social spectrum. There is a place to have dialogue, there is a place to have discussion, there is a place to be reasonably tolerant. But when one group or one minority or one fringe group demands to have a bigger piece of the pie than everybody else, that's where I have an issue. And I make this I measure my words very carefully because I do not want to be misconstrued. Though I'm sure somebody may see this and try to misconstrue what I say. But in terms of the entertainment industry's place in the social and political conversation, their interaction should be sparing, but it should have an impact and it should be thought provoking. It should not be trivial, it should not be pandering, and it most certainly should be more well thought out than it is currently being
Yeah.
done. Because
Well,
right now they are not thinking through what they're doing, and I'll make a statement to a more recent blunder that was done by a major studio, that being Disney and the former CEO Bob Chapek. Bob Chapek stepped in it and put his foot in his mouth after he stepped in it. He made a colossal boneheaded blunder if ever I have seen one in the history of entertainment executives. And he had to step down in disgrace. And Bob Iger had to come back to try and bail out the damn company because of Bob Chapek's piss poor decision making and piss poor leadership.
well, here's bottom line for me, and you've got Ferris making some good points here.
Yeah. And
Uh,
I'll bring a couple of them up, but go ahead, Zach.
okay, so in my own writing, I've had at least one gay character. Okay, and the purpose of that is not to make a statement. It's like, are you kidding me? I mean, it's like, come on. It's not to make a statement. It's almost a well. Here's what it is. It's a character trait. It's not a fucking statement. It's not the purpose of the material. It's not meant to move forward the context of the United States at large or the world at large. It's a character trait for one character or one or two characters I've had, because that's called realism in a certain way. Yeah, you're gonna if you're doing a story, one or two characters might be gay characters, but that shouldn't define the characters.
Yeah.
It's like, why should that even be stated? You know, it's like if you have a butch woman, shouldn't that kind of be self-evident? You've got a butch woman who's not married, or what, as an example.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the audience can interpret that, but does she have to come out and make out with a woman on camera? Is that necessary to convey that character trait?
No, not necessarily. If they did such a thing, it would be more so fan service or audience service to a certain demographic.
But you get what I'm saying. It's like, yeah, we
Oh,
can
yes.
have gay characters, we can have whatever. It's like we can have black characters, we can have female leads,
Yeah.
but that should not be the purpose of the character.
Look, you know, I'll give you a prime example for a instance where that type of dynamic was done well, and then we'll start to wrap up. The movie The Birdcage. Robin Williams, Nathan Lane, Gene Hackman, Diane Wiest, Calista Flockhart, and Tom Fairman, and Hank Azaria. Two straight actors, Robin Williams and Nathan Lane, play two homosexual men, one who is a drag queen. I didn't go to see that movie because the characters were gay, because I myself am not. I'm straight. I'm heterosexual. Have been all my life. Will be.
Yeah, but even at the same time, it's not like we go to movies to see heterosexual characters either.
Yeah,
We go
not
to see
inherently,
movies that are
no.
interesting. But
Yeah.
those two characters happen to service the plot in a way that was intriguing.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of my comedies of the 1990s, if not one of my all-time favorite comedies, period. I mean, because it's a interesting storyline. A guy is raised by his gay father and his partner, and you have a very conservative, potentially right-leaning or moderate-leaning politician, a senator played by Gene Hackman, his wife played by Diane Wiest, the daughter played by Calista Flockhart. That's a great premise for a movie. How are these two worlds going to interact when they eventually interact with one another? And we see the outcome, and it is humorous. And we see Gene Hackman dressed up in drag. He looks like a butch Betty White.
Well, Gene is great, and we'll be talking about Gene tomorrow night, guys. And
Yes.
look, I mean, but the thing is, they didn't do the film to advance gay politics. It was a little interesting film with great actors and a good script, and a intriguing storyline. So there you go. That's what it's all about. It's not like we invent a gay character in Star Wars to kiss at the end of Rise of Skywalker. That does number one, that does nothing socially. Okay, but they believe it does. Okay,
it's pandering.
It's
pandering.
But it's like having a gay character. Nobody disagrees with that. Nobody has a problem with that. But it's like if you all of a sudden you make Dumbledore gay, like they did in Harry Potter. It's like, okay,
why?
After 6 movies, you make that decision. I'm not sure, but anyway.
So
I think I've made my point.
Yes. So, any final thoughts on Last Action Hero, Zach, before we wrap up?
Yeah, it's badass, and I hope people watch it.
I know I will watch it again. I will recommend it to all of my friends wholeheartedly and with the highest recommendation I can give it. So, but I want to thank you all for tuning in tonight. Whether you caught this live or you'll catch us on the replay, make sure you leave your comments down below. If you've ever seen Last Action Hero, if so, what are some of your favorite moments? If you haven't, go watch it. Come back to the comments after you have seen it and let us know what you thought. Obviously, me and Zach will be back tomorrow night with episode 3 of No Sequel November. We'll be doing a double feature review of, personally, 2 of our favorite films from the 1990s.
Should I give him a taste?
Huh?
Should I give him a taste?
No.
Ambassador, I'm the captain of this fucking ship.
That was a good line.
Right,
but
sorry.
we'll be doing... No, you're fine. We'll be doing a double feature review of Crimson Tide and Enemy of the State, starring Denzel Washington, Gene Hackman, and Will Smith. So that stream will be once again at 8:30 Central Time. So be sure to I'm going to set it up here shortly. Make sure you hit the notifications and everything to make sure you do not miss. I might do one more installment for No Sequel November. I haven't decided as of yet, but me and Madman, to give y'all just an idea of what I'm thinking of cooking up, I'm thinking about doing an episode of Ambassadorial Cinema, and this particular installment would be past movies from the 80s that should never have a remake and never have a sequel. So, haven't decided if I'm going to do that for certain, but I am considering it. So,
like Starship Troopers.
Yeah, even though I do have kind of a soft spot for the two sequels. Yeah.
Well, they're doing a remake.
They're doing a remake?
Yes.
Well, yeah, I think I'd heard about that when I did my review back in, I think it was September. Yeah, it was September when I did that review. I don't know how I feel about that. So, but anyways, folks, y'all have a good night. And as I always say, be honest, have integrity, be yourself, but never take yourself too seriously. If you do all those things, you will always have a place here in the Ambassadorial Wing. Until next time, these are the Ambassadors, signing off.
Let's be friends.
I have not.